Chapter 234. Back then, Tion would never forget what happened in the wasteland. That was an experience that almost killed him. How could he forget it? He had long engraved the auras and appearances of those two cultivators deeply into his mind. Why did he desperately forge the demon vein and refine the tiger soul? The most direct reason was to avenge his humiliation. He wanted to use the blood of those two cultivators to wash away the humiliation of that year. The enmity of almost killing him back then had to be avenged. Back then, he clearly saw that the man and woman's cultivation were both in the core formation realm. Although he didn't know exactly which level of the core formation realm they were at, he could predict that they definitely weren't in the late core formation realm. When Tion condensed his first demon vein, he was already able to fight head-on with Wan Tao, who was in the core formation realm. Although he wasn't a match for him, he could still protect his own life. Now that he had formed another demon vein, his overall strength had almost doubled. His strength had already reached a whole new level. Whether it was his demon body or demon essence, they had both reached a peak state. If he had some inner core, he could take that step at any time. The demon race was born and nurtured. Their physique was naturally stronger than that of the human race. A demon king could fight with a core formation cultivator in the cultivation world. They could be said to be incomparably powerful. At this time, Tion was already at the peak of the demon race. In addition, he was walking the path of ancient demon cultivation. With every step forward, his overall strength would have a qualitative leap. In addition to the divine weapon Tiger Soul, his body was brimming with strong confidence. The demonic wind wrapped around him and quickly swept towards the withered bone wasteland. The demonic wind billowed. Tion's body emitted a domineering and dense killing intent. Everywhere he passed, all the birds and beasts involuntarily prostrated themselves on the ground. Their bodies were like sieves, constantly trembling. When he left the withered bone wasteland that year, he had an agreement with the underworld Crow King. He had asked him to send people to monitor the entire wasteland and keep an eye on the whereabouts of those cultivators. Once they showed signs of leaving, he was to immediately inform him in the Myriad Demon Valley. Now there had been no movement. Those cultivators must still be in the wasteland. Bang! Not long after, Sakra fiercely descended from the sky. Both of his feet heavily stepped on the withered bones wasteland. A terrifying power poured out from the soles of his feet. On the spot, the withered bones under his feet were forcibly stomped into a pile of white powder. The surrounding ground trembled violently. Clang! He instantly raised his right hand and grabbed the hilt of the Tiger Soul saber on his back. With a twist of his wrist, the Tiger Soul vast saber was unsheathed. He lowered his arm and pointed the tip of the Tiger Soul saber diagonally to the ground. Pata! His body moved and his feet moved quickly. He took a step forward. Step by step, he walked forward steadily and powerfully. The tip of Tiger Soul landed on the dried bones on the ground. As he continued to walk forward, the tip of the blade dragged on the ground. Tiger Soul's sharpness was unparalleled. There were countless dried bones on the ground. However, under the sharpness of Tiger Soul, they were all easily sliced through like tofu. As Tiger Soul dragged on the ground, the dried bones were unable to cause any harm to it. Waves of black demonic chi became denser with every step he took. It constantly emitted from the countless pores on his body. The king mark on his forehead flashed abnormally violently. Every time it flashed, the terrifying aura that emerged from his body became denser. With every step he took, the aura of solipsism on his body became denser and denser. There was no other thought in his mind except for one: revenge. Wah! At that moment an abnormally hoarse and ear-piercing cry came from the sky. He raised his head and looked over. Two sharp beams of light shot out from his eyes. The sharpness of the beams and the sharpness contained within them were comparable to the Rat King's innate divine ability, Rat's vision. A gray figure was in the sky. Under the two beams of light, it seemed to have suffered a terrifying attack in an instant. Its entire body fell vertically to the ground. However, when Tion saw the other party's appearance, the terrifying sharpness in his eyes immediately faded away. Just as the gray figure was about to fall, it turned around and flapped its wings, rising into the sky in a panic. It was an underworld raven. The underworld raven was clearly worried, but it still let out a series of cries and pointed in a direction in the withered bone wasteland. The target is just ahead. Tion understood. His eyes shone brightly. Dragging the tiger soul in his hand, he unhesitatingly stepped forward. He did not seem to be moving quickly, but in the blink of an eye, he was already dozens of feet away. With each step, he left behind a footprint. The bones on the ground shattered into countless pieces. Junior Brother Liang, do you sense that there seems to be a very strong demonic aura coming from outside? Could it be that some demon has entered the withered bone wasteland? On the path Tion took, there were two black-robed cultivators who were dressed similarly to the man and woman from back then. They were standing in the wasteland that was filled with piles of bones. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man. He was not very handsome, but he could be considered above average. Fifth Senior Brother, I also sense that there really is a demonic aura coming our way. However, it's just in time. We have been in the wasteland all this time and have seen nothing but skeletons. Seeing a living one will improve our mood. The remaining young black-robed cultivator laughed strangely and said, Master's mission is about to be completed. Furthermore, there is not much time left before the heavenly demon mystic realm opens. Master wants to enter the mystic realm with the white bone god-slaying array and see if he can capture the pagoda. Now, before we leave, we should kill a few demons and let the array see some blood. The cultivator's appearance was not bad, but his face was abnormally sinister. The words he said were not taboo to kill. That's right. Let's go and see where this demon came from. It actually dares to appear in front of us. A demon beast's inner core is good stuff. Its entire body is a treasure. It just so happens that I have long wanted to refine a set of white bone god-slaying spikes. It is most suitable to refine it with a demon beast's body, the middle-aged cultivator said disapprovingly. Let's go. A light flashed in their hands, and a strange Dharma treasure appeared in the middle-aged man's hand. In his left hand was a long, snow-white awl that looked like the horn of a ferocious beast. In his right hand was a more sinister and terrifying hammer. This hammer was not ordinary. The head of the hammer was a ferocious beast's skull. The handle of the hammer was made of a spine, and it looked extremely sinister. When the two items were put together, it looked like the legendary Thunder God's Thunder God hammer. Together, it was a complete Dharma treasure. The young cultivator took out a white bone sword. The sword's color was ghastly white, and it was terrifying. There seemed to be a layer of phosphorescent flames on the sword's body. It made it even more sinister. It looked like a ball of will-o'-the-wisp. Patter, patter. Before they could move forward, they heard a series of heavy and steady footsteps that sounded like the beat of a drum, entering their ears time and time again. A vast aura that was like the sea, surging towards the two of them in an earth-shattering manner. Kacha, kacha! Many decaying bones on the ground were constantly broken and shattered under the pressure that was as heavy as a mountain. For a moment, the two cultivators, who were originally relaxed, changed in an instant. Their faces became quite unsightly at the same time. Under that vast aura, they couldn't help but feel an immeasurable pressure from the bottom of their hearts. Nervous, that's right, they were nervous. Two pairs of eyes stared nervously ahead. There was a small bone mound in front of them. Who is it? What kind of monster can have such a terrifying pressure? Strong, so strong. The middle-aged man secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He held the Dharma treasure in his hand tightly. Master didn't let us provoke the monsters in the southern wilderness. Could it be that Master knew that there would be those ferocious old monsters in the southern wilderness? The young cultivator's mind was also spinning quickly. Feeling that terrifying pressure, the contempt that he had at the beginning had long been thrown away. Ferocious beast, this was a ferocious beast. Bang! Finally, a figure stepped on the small white bone mound. The moment he stepped on it, the entire mound seemed to be unable to withstand that terrifying pressure and collapsed on the spot. He stepped on the pile of bones. Deschertien's black hair danced wildly. His gaze was like lightning. The black robe on his body fluttered even though there was no wind. Rustling sounds could be heard. The tiger's soul in his hand was still pointing diagonally at the ground. Countless pitch-black demonic aura enveloped his body, forming a terrifying demonic cloud above his head. Under the contrast of that domineering and boundless killing intent, he was like a demon at this moment. The divine light in his eyes was abnormally cold. He glanced at the two people in front of him. When he saw the black clothes on the two cultivators, the light in his eyes suddenly became abnormally sharp. They're in cahoots with those two cultivators. He could tell at a glance that the style of the black clothes and the strange skull mark on the chest were almost exactly the same as the clothes worn by the man and woman back then. This also made him instantly understand that these two people were definitely in cahoots with the man and woman back then, or perhaps they were disciples of the same sect. Then, he recalled that the underworld Crow King had once said that there was a group of cultivators wandering in the withered bone wasteland, capturing those undead creatures. He immediately understood. Those who block me will die. His eyes instantly became filled with killing intent. Since they were in cahoots, then they deserved to die. Almost in the blink of an eye, the cold killing intent broke out of his body. He stepped forward with his left foot, and a gust of wind suddenly formed outside his body, supporting his body. His aura was like a mountain as he pounced toward the two people. A demonic golden saber light flashed quickly on the blade of the tiger soul that was dragging on the ground. With a twist of his wrist, the ferocious blade of the tiger soul slashed upward diagonally from the bottom to the top. Although his body was still dozens of feet away from the two cultivators, the might of the tiger soul was unparalleled under the infusion of the demonic essence. A golden saber light that was about 3 to 4 feet long extended from the blade of the tiger soul. Chapter 235. The tiger soul's might was boundless. The moment it released its light, the entire world seemed to tremble under the tiger soul's sharpness. The gigantic saber light that cut across the sky instantly enveloped the two cultivators under its sharpness. The saber ray spat out a tyrannical aura of a monarch, causing all the targets the saber ray pointed at to feel as if they were facing the might of the heavens. Their aura and courage were greatly affected in an instant. They naturally felt as if they were a head shorter. It was as if their aura was being suppressed. The saber ray was fierce and tyrannical. It came as fast as lightning. The saber ray swept across the two cultivators in front of it with a swift and fierce aura, as if it wanted to directly cut them in half. Junior Marshal brother, be careful. He's using his full strength. This demon has already condensed a Niden. He's a true demon. The middle-aged man only felt the air around him suddenly solidify. For some inexplicable reason, he felt as if he didn't dare to resist. His expression instantly changed. To be able to release such a tyrannical aura, this demon was definitely an expert of the demon race. He didn't hesitate to activate the magic treasure in his hand. Bang! Gotcha! The Dharma treasure in his hand was a natal Dharma treasure that he had nurtured for who knew how many years. It had accompanied him until now. It was refined from the body of a strange beast, the full moon rhinoceros. The long awl was made from the rhinoceros horn on its head, and the hammer was refined from the rhinoceros skull. Together, they formed a complete magic treasure called the Seven Fiends' Soul-Chasing Stab. When the seven-fiend Een thunder was struck on the rhinoceros horn, the tip of the horn would burst forth with seven-fiend Een thunder. This seven-fiend Een thunder was an extremely terrifying type of Een thunder. It was condensed from baleful aura. Its power was extremely great. If it were to strike a core formation cultivator, the baleful aura would explode and cause their body to explode into pieces. Even a nascent soul stage cultivator would have to be careful when facing such lightning. When the middle-aged cultivator saw the monstrous aura emanating from Di Shirtian's body and the tiger soul that was slashing towards him at lightning speed, the middle-aged cultivator did not hesitate in the slightest as he struck the tiger soul on the spot. In an instant, layers of white electric arcs appeared on the long, ghastly white awl. These electric arcs clearly emitted waves of dense, murderous aura. Then, they gathered together, and with a cautious sound from the tip of the awl, they transformed into a zig-shaped bolt of lightning. They fiercely bombarded the tyrannical tiger soul. Furthermore, this middle-aged cultivator was clearly an expert who had gone through hundreds of battles. Putting aside the fact that he struck the tiger soul with his awl, when the seven evils thunder was sent out, he immediately changed the direction of the awl and struck it towards Sakra himself once again. An equally fierce thunderbolt struck violently towards his head. He wanted to heavily injure him with the lightning. The other young cultivator was not a cultivator who only had cultivation but no experience. When he heard the middle-aged cultivator's shout, he immediately understood. The white bone sword in his hand instantly emitted a ghastly white bonefire as he formed a strange sword seal and shouted, "Kill! The seven evils demon sword art." This was a sword art that could not be underestimated in the evil Tao. Once the sword art was used, a flying sword could instantly turn into a demon. This demon was actually just a demon's head, but the demon's body was almost like a soul and was in between an illusion. Normal attacks would not be able to hit it, but it was extremely terrifying to be entangled by it. Its mouth could spit out countless sword lights and was extremely difficult to deal with. It was said that when cultivated to the highest level, 7 demon heads could be formed instantly. It was extremely powerful. Now, the white bone sword in front of him instantly transformed into 3 demon heads. Carrying a ghastly white bonefire, they let out strange cries and charged towards the tiger soul. Almost no cultivator below the core formation stage would be able to resist these 3 devilish heads. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it all happened in the blink of an eye. Under the threat of tiger soul, the 2 core formation cultivators did not lose the true strength of core formation cultivators in their reactions. In an instant, the battle entered a white-hot state from the beginning. Bang! Di Shirtian's expression was still cold when he saw the 2 cultivators' reaction. The tiger soul did not stop and immediately collided with the 7 evils lightning. The most powerful aspect of the tiger soul was its sharpness and domineering nature. Even if the tiger soul did not inject demonic essence into it, it could still split mountains and split rocks by itself. Furthermore, the saber contained pure demonic essence. At this moment, his cultivation level was definitely not inferior to any core-bearing stage cultivator. The 7 evils lightning was indeed terrifying. When it collided with the tiger soul, the terrifying power contained in the lightning immediately erupted. Countless bolts of lightning exploded and shot out, scattering on the withered bones in the surroundings. The bones were all shattered by the lightning and turned into fine powder. Slash! However, the tiger soul in Di Shirtian's hand was only temporarily stopped by the 7 evils lightning. The terrifying saber light that burst out from the saber dimmed significantly. However, Di Shirtian's expression was still calm and cold. His eyes were filled with an indomitable killing intent. Although the downward slash was stopped, the tiger soul was already in the air in front of him. With a twist of his wrist, the saber's momentum was not disrupted at all. The moment the slash stopped, the tiger soul moved horizontally and immediately turned the slash from the slash into a horizontal slash. Then, it collided with the demon head formed by the sword technique. Just as it came into contact with the demon head, an astonishing change occurred. At the place where the blade and the hilt were connected, The strange green bead formed suddenly glowed with a strange green light. When the green light flashed, the tiger's soul strangely had a terrifying devouring power. When the demon head came into contact with the blade, the devouring power immediately wrapped around the demon head and pulled it into the tiger's soul. In almost the blink of an eye, the demon head was completely devoured by the tiger's soul. None of the 3 demon heads were spared. Before it could even unleash its full power, it had already perished. Crack! The white bone sword appeared in front of the tiger soul. The saber light slashed and the sword was cut in half. It fell to the ground without a trace of light. The essence in the sword had long been devoured by the tiger soul. The tiger soul was not obstructed at all. Ding dong! Amidst the crisp sound of the zither, the 7 sins demonic zither appeared above his head without him knowing. The zither strings pulsated on their own and countless sound waves were released, blocking the 7 evils e'en lightning that was bombarding him. The tiger's soul slashed horizontally, and the 2 cultivators did not even have the chance to scream before they were cut in half at the waist. The essence blood in their bodies was instantly devoured by the tiger soul, and the 2 cultivators who were still alive just a moment ago turned into 2 withered corpses in the blink of an eye. In their eyes, one could clearly see a hint of fear and disbelief. Clearly, they could not imagine that they would die like this. Just 1 slash took their lives. Whoever dares to stop me will die. Any cultivator in this wasteland is my enemy. De Chertien's expression was abnormally cold. Looking at the 2 corpses in front of him, he reached out his hand and clawed at them in the air. In an instant, the natal Dharma treasure in the middle-aged man's hand, the 7 evils soul-chasing spike, instantly fell into his hand. However, this Dharma treasure was a natal Dharma treasure. When its owner died, the treasure light on the Dharma treasure became extremely dim. There were faint signs that it was going to shatter. A natal Dharma treasure was a Dharma treasure that followed a cultivator for their entire life. When its owner died, it would self-destruct. If it died, even if it did not die, the Dharma treasure's spirituality would instantly dissipate by more than half. Such a Dharma treasure was usually broken up and turned into essence chi for one's natal Dharma treasure to absorb. Accelerate evolution. However, De Chertien did not do so. Firstly, the 7 sins demonic zither was already a supreme-grade Dharma treasure and could step into the ranks of Dharma treasures at any time. Absorbing it would not be of much use. Secondly, the tiger soul did not refine the 9 heavens 9 extremes origin returning array, so it could not absorb the Dharma treasure's essence chi. It could only instinctively devour essence chi and essence chi. It would be a waste to let it self-destruct. De Chertien did not hesitate and quickly wrapped the Dharma treasure with his demonic aura, imprisoning it and keeping it in its current state. Then, he put it into his storage bag. Although he could not use it, he could give it to his subordinate. It would be a good Dharma treasure for Little White. Just as De Chertien was about to directly absorb the 2 into the demon refining cauldron and completely refine them, a thought flashed in his mind. He thought of the strange corner of the map from back then. He could not help but wonder if they also had a piece of the map on them. Thinking of this, his heart immediately became eager. He walked forward and searched their bodies. As expected, he really did find a strange triangular map fragment on the middle-aged man's body. There were strange lines on this map fragment, which seemed very mysterious. It's not the previous one, it's another piece of the map. The scene back then was still vivid in his mind, and he could see the map quite clearly. At a glance, he could see that the map in front of him was not the one back then. It should be the other part. He probed the map with his demonic sense. In an instant, the scene in the map appeared in front of him. It was a strange space that was the same as the one he had encountered back then. There were skeletons inside, and there was a throne on the mountain. On the throne sat a similar sovereign king, but the weapon in the skeleton sovereign king's hand was a big axe. It could be seen that it was indeed not the one back then. Without any hesitation, he quickly put away the map. Looking at the sky, the underworld raven was still there, guiding him in the sky, pointing out the location of the target. Even if I have to travel through the entire wasteland, I will find those two dogs. His aura was still monstrous. He dragged the tiger soul. Although the tiger soul had already drunk blood, there was not a trace of blood on the saber. It was all swallowed by the saber. After the tiger's soul drank blood, the saber naturally began to have murderous aura, and a murderous aura was condensing. Compared to the beginning, there was more of a threatening aura. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 236. Pada. After killing two people, his footsteps did not stop for a moment. He walked step by step in the direction pointed by the underworld raven. In his mind, he recalled the scene of him killing the two cultivators with the tiger soul. He could not help but be secretly excited. The murderous aura in his body became even stronger. With every step he took, his aura rose by a bit. Pleasure. When fighting with the tiger soul, Tion clearly felt that every inch of his flesh and blood was constantly throbbing, emitting an unusual feeling of pleasure. It was a kind of joy. His blood was jubilant. It seemed to be a kind of innate desire for battle, a deep yearning for the kind of battle where every blade saw blood. Battle, constant battle. The blood of battle flowed in the body of the king of beasts. The innate fighting instinct of the ancient demon cultivators was also constantly stimulating his nerves. It caused a strong fighting spirit to surge out of his body. A surge of emotions constantly reverberated in his chest. In ancient times, almost all ancient demon cultivators had immeasurable talent in martial arts and battle skills. Every time they fought, they were abnormally excited and hot-blooded. That was a collision of strength. That was a contest between battle skills. That kind of battle, in ancient times, was the most powerful method of the demon race. Legend had it that in ancient times, powerful demon cultivators could casually use battle skills to break the void and crush the stars. Pinch the sun and the moon. That kind of earth-shattering divine ability. It was almost the embodiment of strength. For a long time, when Indra fought, he mostly relied on the seven sins demonic zither and even his own tiger roar sound waves to fight his enemies. Although he was strong, he lacked the unique feeling of a real battle where his fists hit flesh and his saber saw blood. He felt that kind of hot-bloodedness, that kind of thrill of battle. Until today. With just one slash, he killed two cultivators. The pleasure he felt when the blade sliced through their flesh and blood was indescribable. This was the courage in the heart of a man. That kind of unique fighting spirit. This kind of indescribable feeling constantly reverberated in his chest, making him feel like vomiting but unable to spit it out. He raised his eyebrows. A murderous aura overflowed between his brows. Cold arrogance, incomparably cold. A song that he had seen in his previous life could not help but appear in his mind. A man should be ruthless. Morality and benevolence are at odds with each other. A man should kill, and he should kill without mercy. The immortal work of 1,000 years is all in the killing. He could not help but sing a song. This was a song about killing, a song about men. All those years ago, when he saw this ballad for the first time, countless lofty sentiments had surged into his heart, and the seven blood in his chest roiled. He wished for nothing more than to be on the bloody battlefield of ancient times. Be a real man for once. As soon as this line came out, the endless fighting spirit that occupied his chest seemed to have an extra opening with every line that was spoken. It directly broke out of his body, and a carefree and comfortable feeling emerged from his body. His mind seemed to have reached a kind of sublimation at this moment. Every time he recited a line, his fighting spirit would surge higher and higher. His footsteps also moved forward rhythmically. In the past, there were heroic men who valued their promises. His body is lighter than a feather. There were also heroes and tyrants, killing people like flax, galloping through the world, praising only the saber and spear. Today, I'm looking for something like this, yet I'm looking for the moon's shadow in vain. Roar! His mind was agitated, and his entire person stepped into an indescribable state without any warning. With every step he took, his mind seemed to have begun to transform a little and sublimated in the song. In his mind, everything that had happened since he was reborn on the purple-gold continent appeared. His mind was immersed in the song of killing. His entire person began to slowly integrate into the world that he was in. Tiger Soul was his life-divine weapon, and under the unity of his mind, it could not help but let out a tiger's roar from the blade. The domineering aura in the blade became even more awe-inspiring. Don't you see, the upright scholars rise like bees, the brave men die, and the divine land praises benevolence and righteousness from then on? The central plains is in chaos, and the scholars flee, and the cowardly people weep. I want to learn the ancient style, and revive the heroic spirit. Reputation is like dung, and those who disdain benevolence ridicule. Wearing a sharp iron sword, and killing people in anger. Cutting shares to go with wine, chatting and laughing, and frightening ghosts and God. Killing enemies from 1,000 miles away, willing to spend 10 stars. Specializing in the light of the fields and forming feelings. Heading out of the west gate, carrying the head back. Tired and thinking of sleep, the war horn suddenly blows. Leaving the mother at the west gate, the mother grieves, but the son does not grieve. Sweating and youthful, a man will not return. Killing between the heavens and the earth, the tragic Een court. The song that was filled with killing intent reverberated in the wasteland of bones, spreading far and wide. Unknowingly, the song seemed to be able to move the heavens and the earth. The sky above D. Shirtian's head strangely appeared a terrifying blood-red color. In the blood-red color, one could faintly hear the sound of countless soldiers and horses, and the sound of killing. Walking along the song, singing with every step. Singing with the mouth, frightening ghosts and gods. His mind involuntarily entered an inconceivable state, empty and clear. No, it was an indescribable sublimation. The first time D. Shirtian killed with Tiger Soul, it completely ignited the innate battle intent in his body, the nature of killing. In this murderous song that spoke of the bloody nature of men from ancient times to modern times, it suddenly resonated, and he naturally immersed himself in that realm. The wasteland of bones was an ancient battlefield, a land of slaughter. In this wasteland, who knew how many peerless heroes were buried? When the murderous song was played, it spread in this wasteland, and an unimaginable scene appeared, attracting the resonance of countless heroes hidden in the wasteland. Vaguely, under the withered bone wasteland, countless ignorant afterimages appeared. They surrounded D. Shirtian and let out world-shaking roars. Ghosts wailed and gods howled. These were the wisps of divine souls left behind by the supreme experts who had fallen from ancient times. They should have been sleeping underground, but D. Shirtian sang the murderous song that shocked ghosts and gods in this wasteland. The incomparable heroism in the song actually awakened countless remnant souls from underground. They constantly rushed out from underground and surrounded D. Shirtian. But at this moment, D. Shirtian's entire mind seemed to be completely immersed in the song. He was completely unaware of the outside world, just walking step by step along with the song. 3 steps to kill a person, the heart stops, the hand doesn't stop. Blood flows for 10,000 miles, corpses pillow on 1,000 mountains. Brave warriors finish their campaigns, sleep on the corpses of their enemies. In their dreams they kill, their smiles reflect the sun. Daughters don't ask, why are men so fierce? Since ancient times, benevolence has been used to harm people, and righteousness has never been true. Don't you see, lions and tigers gain fame for their prey, but who pity the poor elk? In this world, the strong eat the weak. Even if there is reason, it is futile. Don't ask, men have their own ways. Clang, clang, clang. The countless remnant souls seemed to be immersed in the song's ruthless brashness, and they began to strike the weapons in their hands, emitting countless sounds of slaughter that served as a foil to the song. That tragic aura! It echoed in the air above the wasteland. An even stranger scene appeared. One remnant soul after another followed Chertion forward step by step, throwing themselves into his body. On his forehead, the violet royal tattoo began to pulse with incalculable speed, bursting with resplendent violet light. Each soul naturally rushed into his body, into the royal tattoo. The royal tattoo slowly transformed into a ball of violet flame that settled on his forehead. Every time a god soul rushed into his body, his aura would involuntarily rise a little. The aura he exuded was now filled with a fierce killing intent. Men should be ruthless. Deeds and benevolence don't coexist. Men in the arena of slaughter have the courage of a bear and the eyes of a wolf. If I were born a man, I would kill, and not let the body of a man bind the heart of a woman. Men never care for their bodies, and even when the hands of a mortal enemy, they smile. In 100 battlefields of hatred, everywhere is green with weeds. The wasteland was filled with the weeping of ghosts and the howling of gods. The sky was dyed the color of blood. What's going on? How did the wasteland become like this? Heavens, these are all souls that were buried under the bones. How did they come out? Could it be that some great calamity has been born? Listen, everyone. This song is so domineering. Who's singing it? Could it be that these souls were drawn out by the song? Who was the composer of this song? When I listen to it, I have a kind of boiling impulse to kill with a knife. At this time, in the wasteland, there was not only Chertion, but also a group of cultivators. The song echoed in the wasteland. Moreover, as time passed, the song became louder and louder, not only resounding in the wasteland, but also reverberating throughout the entire southern wilderness. Everyone who heard this a man's walk and this song of murder, whether they were humans, demons, or even birds and beasts that had yet to be born with spirituality, couldn't help but feel a sense of lofty pride. At this time, in front of Chertion, a group of black-clothed cultivators panicked, listening to the song in their ears with fear and doubt. Among them, there was the man and woman who fought with Chertion in the past. Almost all the cultivators in the wasteland had gathered here. Pata! Pata! The footsteps were steady, and the singing was still loud. Men, do not tremble, there is a song for you to listen to. Killing one is a crime, slaughtering 10,000 is a hero. Slaughtering 9 million is a hero among heroes. Heroes among heroes, the path is different. Seeing through the 1,000 years of benevolence and righteousness, but making a hero in this life. Not loving the good name, not loving the bad name, not punishing the heart for killing 1 million. I would rather make 10,000 people gnash their teeth in hatred, not teach no one to scold me. Looking at the world for thousands of years, which hero did not kill? Kill, kill, kill. His body was still moving forward, dragging the tiger soul in his hand. Countless souls were madly rushing into his body with him as the center. This scene was extremely strange. No matter how strong a person was, if they saw this scene, they would be so scared that their eyeballs would fall out on the spot. When the 3 words "kill" were spat out, the surging murderous aura directly soared into the sky, penetrating heaven and earth, the sun and the moon. The surging whole wasteland trembled violently. The 10,000 bone-devouring trees that grew in the wasteland made strange whistling sounds, which was abnormally evil. A murderous song had inconceivably stirred up the entire wasteland, producing such a world-shaking change that even ghosts and gods would weep. And Chertion, who caused all this, was still immersed in that inexplicable mood. He had no idea that such a change would happen. He also did not know what kind of transformation this change would bring him and what kind of future it would bring him. This song is Chertion? In the 100 Flowers Valley, Chun Shi's expression instantly changed. He suddenly stood up and looked at the withered bone wasteland in disbelief. A man's line has also made me feel quite excited. I feel as if my blood is boiling. Thousands of demons are only beginning to truly spread out now. Next, there will be endless passion. Let us accompany the man's line and forge a bloody path forward together. By the way, I would like to ask for votes. Any votes will do. Chapter 237. Although he had only seen Di Shirtian once, the impression in his mind was not shallow at all. There was no reason that he couldn't recognize his voice. Listening to the song that spread throughout the southern barbarian land, the song contained endless masculine vigor, lofty sentiments, and violent murderous intent. Unparalleled fighting intent in the world. Even those ignorant animals who hadn't opened their intelligence could feel the excitement in the song. The blood in their body was rolling, and they couldn't help but stretch out their necks to make long cries and roars. In the southern barbarian land, one after another, many gentle animals couldn't help but have their eyes turn blood-red. Their bodies exuded an unprecedented violent aura. A man's walk was a song of killing. It was a song of the ancient and modern world. Killing one was a crime, killing 10,000 was a hero, and killing millions was a hero among heroes. In the song, it was full of killing, full of men's lofty sentiments, and talked about thousands of bloody things. It was a song for thousands of years. Including thousands of years, there had never been a song that could be compared with A Man's Walk. Even Chun Shi, who had always been calm in his heart, couldn't help but feel agitated when he listened to the song. Feeling the lofty sentiments in the song, he couldn't help but want to fight. In the southern barbarian land, because of bearing the life of the southern barbarian demon tribe, he had suppressed his blood for countless years. He couldn't help but scold it out of himself. In the calm lake of his heart, there were circles of ripples. Slowly, a figure emerged from it. Di Shirtian can sing such a strange song for thousands of years. It can be said that he is a weirdo among demons. Not to mention the entire purple gold continent, even in the demon realm, there has never been a demon that can match him. Unfortunately, I was born before you were born, and you already had a concubine. He suddenly stood up, stood in front of the window, and looked at the wasteland where the song came from. The look in his eyes was complicated for a moment. There was a good saying that from ancient times to the present, the real hot-blooded man, the unparalleled genius, was the most attractive to the beauty. Listening to the heroic and unparalleled song, it was undeniable that there was a ripple in Chun Shi's heart. Somehow, he had a feeling of being attracted to Di Shirtian. However, he calmed down in an instant. The layers of ripples gradually disappeared, and his mind slowly recovered. Bang, bang, bang! Roar! Howl! Wah! All the monster kings in the southern barbarian lands let out earth-shattering roars one after another in response to the song. Then, countless monster clans let out howls that resounded throughout the southern barbarian land. At this moment, it was destined that the southern barbarian lands would not be peaceful. It was also the beginning of something extraordinary. Elder sister, the man in Brother D's song is a real man, a real tyrant. Zhu had decided that from now on, Big Brother D would be Zhu idol forever. The song is really too exciting. The vermilion bird stood on Chun Shi's shoulder, its eyes filled with countless little stars. If I'm not wrong, something big must have happened in the withered bone wasteland. Chun Shi said thoughtfully, it's a pity that I haven't taken that crucial step yet. I have to protect my body and can't leave the valley. Otherwise, if I go and see it with my own eyes, I'll definitely be enlightened. However, your Big Brother D's future achievements can't be predicted by anyone for being able to compose such an ancient song. Perhaps another unparalleled expert will appear in our monster clan. At this moment, she looked at the sky with an abnormally deep gaze that contained an incomparably complicated expression. Pata! Pata! Tion was completely immersed in that nameless state. The aura emitted from his entire body was the same as that of the unparalleled man in the song. Raging battle intent and endless killing intent. It stirred up the remnant souls of gods, demons, and monsters that had been silent for countless years under the withered bone wasteland. These were all experts who had fallen on the battlefield. Even at the last moment before their deaths, they were still spilling hot blood and brimming with passion in battle. Waving their blood. Killing. The song resonated with all the remnant souls. They were remnant souls and could no longer be resurrected. There was only the last trace of obsession for battle and obsession for killing in their minds. For a moment it was unexpected but also expected. These remnant souls began to rush into Tion's body one after another, wanting to entrust the last of their obsession for killing and battle to him. If he was awake, such an action, such pure killing remnant souls, not to mention thousands, even if there were only 1,000 or 2,000 of them, it would be enough to make Tion completely sink into that endless killing. He would become a slave to killing, or even go crazy and lose his mind. As long as he encountered any living creature, he would not hesitate to destroy it. However, because of this ancient song, he entered an indescribable state for a moment. As more and more of these souls entered, the killing intent and battle intent on his body rose to a terrifying level that shocked the world. In the sky, a huge blood-colored cloud was formed. The surging killing intent wanted to rush into the clouds and out of the southern wilderness. However, in the midst of a strange trembling sound that resounded throughout the southern barbarian, there seemed to be a mysterious power rising from the southern barbarian. All of a sudden, it covered the entire southern barbarian and completely bound the shocking murderous aura, preventing it from rushing out of the southern barbarian. Even the boundless killing intent had no way to break through the shackles of this mysterious force. It was extremely magical. Sakura didn't care about any of this. He just continued to step forward while singing continuously. He sang over and over again, stirring up the bloodline of all the living beings. With every step he took, it was unknown how many souls rushed into his body. The purple king pattern on his forehead began to transform in a mysterious way. It kept jumping, like a ball of flame, as if it was real. Every time a soul entered his body seemed to suddenly grow a little taller. With every step he took, the bones of the wilderness behind him began to turn into powder, forming a huge canyon. Bang, bang, bang! At this moment, Tion, under the fusion of countless souls, was completely equivalent to the unparalleled godfiend. Finally, when the song ended for the second time, Tion suddenly appeared in front of the group of cultivators. This group of cultivators, the blood in their bodies was boiling, obviously affected by the song. However, the moment they saw Tion, a deep fear appeared in their eyes at the same time. Although they had not started to kill, the endless killing intent emitted from Tion's body drowned all the cultivators in an instant. At the moment when they were submerged by the murderous aura, countless scenes of slaughter suddenly appeared in their minds. Besides Sakura, there were even thousands of divine souls stirring. Kill, kill, kill. Although Sakura was still in a state of unconsciousness and didn't know that the adulterous couple he was looking for was among this group of cultivators, but the stimulation of the murderous aura in his body made his mind have an impulse to fight. The murderous aura on his body seemed to have materialized, forming a layer of terrifying blood waves that rolled endlessly. He spat out the word "kill" 3 times in a row. He waved the tiger soul in his hand. Clang! At this moment, he was not alone. He had the power of the countless remnant souls that had died in this wilderness. This slash, the killing intent that burst out of his body, and even the will to fight, rushed into the tiger's soul like a tidal wave. For the past 6 months, he had been practicing the basic saber technique every day without stopping, and all his understanding of the saber was poured into it. In his mind, tens of thousands of saber moves inexplicably appeared. All of them were quickly combined from basic saber technique. These saber moves kept flashing in his mind, constantly being destroyed, and constantly being combined. Coupled with the infinite spirit, the murderous aura of the world, and the inexplicable artistic conception that he was in, they all merged together. In an instant they formed a kind of sublimation. Instantly, an unimaginably terrifying saber technique was formed. Howl! The tiger soul swung its saber at the group of cultivators. When the saber was swung, the wilderness under the tiger's soul shook violently. Before the tiger's soul landed, countless skeletons were completely turned into fine powder. A terrifying saber gleam that connected the heavens and the earth shot out from the tiger soul's saber. The golden saber gleam pierced through the heavens and the earth. It crossed the void. At the same time, countless figures of gods and demons rushed out from the saber. These gods and demons all swung their sabers, instantly covering a radius of 100 miles. These gods and demons were illusory. When they swung their sabers, the saber techniques were the simplest. They were just the various slashing moves of the basic saber technique. They were direct and simple, but the saber seemed to contain the trajectory of the heavens and the earth. Every slash of the saber would shatter the void in front of them. Each god and demon swung a different move, and the angle of their slashes was different. Each slash covered the entire space within 100 miles. This slash was not a simple battle technique. It made gods and demons dance, made the heavens and the earth tremble, and made the sun and moon lose their light. It was accompanied by the power of gods and demons. Hurry up and activate the array diagram. This group of cultivators had already been shocked by the unparalleled murderous aura. When they looked at this earth-shattering slash again, they were really frightened. However, when any life was forced to the point of death, even a rabbit would jump up and bite people, let alone cultivators. No one knew who let out a loud roar. It woke all the cultivators up. Without hesitation, they all waved their incomplete diagrams. All the incomplete diagrams burst out with a strange light. There were a total of 7 pieces, and they flew into the air together. In the light, they strangely merged together. However, on the incomplete diagrams, a corner was strangely missing. It was not complete. GAGA. The incomplete diagrams flew across the sky. From the diagrams there were terrifying cries that made people feel cold. Amidst the cries, huge skeletal kings that looked like giants walked out. There were a total of 7 of them, and each of them held a different weapon in their hands. Seeing the countless gods and demons pressing down from the sky, the flames in their eyes trembled violently. GAGA. At the same time, they let out a terrifying roar. Then, they did something that made people extremely speechless. Strong rise, brothers, those who have monthly votes, help me rush up the monthly votes list. Tion is gradually starting to rise, your votes can make the rise speed even faster. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 238. They all dragged their weapons on the ground, turned around, stuck up their butts, and ran quickly to the front of the map fragment. They rushed into the map fragment, not daring to show their faces. The map fragment, which was still glowing, suddenly shrunk and fell to the ground. These skeleton sovereigns ran away without fighting. Under this earth-shattering blade, they had no intention of resisting at all. They turned into turtles in an instant. It was like a turtle hiding in the array diagram. How could this be? This change was completely out of the expectations of all the cultivators. They looked at the map fragment on the ground, dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. However, while they were stunned, Tirtian's blade did not. Countless fiend gods rushed out of the tiger soul blade and arrived in front of the group of cultivators in an instant. Countless blade lights fell. These blade lights contained endless killing power, piercing through the sun and the moon, sweeping across the world. This blade was not only Di Shirtian's power, but also the power of countless fiend gods. All of them exploded in this blade. One could imagine how powerful the power of this saber was. Its power had completely surpassed the limits of the cultivation world. At this moment, not to mention a dozen core formation cultivators, even nascent soul cultivators, or cultivators who were about to ascend to immortality, could only bow their heads and submit to the tiger soul. Its power was unrivaled in the world. Not to mention the dozen or so core formation cultivators in front of them. The skeleton sovereigns in the map fragment suddenly became deserters. Countless fiend gods waved their battle blades and cut all the cultivators in front of them into thousands of pieces in the blink of an eye. They were truly cut into thousands of pieces. They did not even have the time to scream. Not only that, the fiend god's saber chi swept across and landed on the wasteland. Rumble! Those withered bones were like tofu. Amidst a series of rumbling sounds, the area within a radius of 100 miles actually turned into a terrifying bottomless abyss. The bones within were all turned into fine powder. The might of Tiger Soul's saber strike could be said to be capable of destroying the heavens and earth. Even fiend gods would be shocked in front of it. As the blade fell, the heavens and the earth were destroyed. The murderous aura on Di Shirtian's body seemed to have been completely vented by this blade. His footsteps, which had been moving forward, suddenly stopped. He stood quietly on the wasteland, allowing the countless spirits to rush into his body. His mind was filled with the saber intent of that saber. Countless saber techniques flashed rapidly. Rumble! His consciousness still hadn't returned, and he didn't know what was going on. Countless people wearing purple armor and holding swords rushed out of the purple pool. They crazily swung their swords at the purple pool and slashed at the purple gas, causing the purple gas to churn violently. Then, a large amount of purple chi gushed out and rushed into the purple pool. The purple pool immediately expanded. However, the purple mist at the edge of the purple pool wasn't endless. Back then, the purple pool had expanded once, and when it expanded, it split apart the surrounding purple mist, as if it was opening up a world in the primal chaos. The purple chi was the best nourishment. Once it entered the purple pool, it would expand and grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, with the influx of countless spirits and fiend gods, the space in the purple pool was completely filled. Immediately, all the spirits in the purple pool began to rush into the purple pool and attack the purple chi again, wanting to open up a wider space. However, the purple chi had become much thinner after the previous opening. When it was opened again, almost in the blink of an eye, all of the purple chi was shattered and absorbed by the purple pool. In the blink of an eye, the purple pool had devoured all of the purple chi. However, once the purple chi was exhausted, the growth stopped. The surroundings of the purple pool turned into nothingness. Rumble! However, at this moment a miraculous thing happened. The boundless slaughter chi in his body seemed to have found a place to go, and like a whale sucking in water, it rushed into the king mark. When the slaughter chi entered the king mark, it didn't enter the purple pond, but instead appeared in the air above the purple pond, forming a strange purple cloud above the purple pond. The boundless heaven and earth spiritual chi in the surroundings surged into the king mark on his forehead like a tidal wave. A huge amount of heaven and earth spirit energy formed a huge spirit energy vortex above Sakra's head. No matter what kind of energy was in this vortex, it was crazily sucked into the vortex and then sent into the king mark. When it entered the king mark, it rushed into the purple cloud above the purple pool, just like the slaughter chi. The purple cloud violently expanded and became bigger and bigger. Rumble! Countless purple lightning bolts strangely appeared in the purple cloud. They shuttled back and forth in the purple cloud. Every time they flashed, the purple cloud would violently tumble and quickly shrink. As the purple lightning flashed faster and faster, the purple cloud also quickly gathered in the center and completely shrunk. Suddenly, countless lightning bolts flashed and stimulated the purple cloud to constantly change shape. For a moment it turned into a purple tiger, then it turned into a strange bird, then it turned into an indescribable object. However, the speed at which the purple cloud changed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it changed thousands of times. Finally, with a terrifying roar, countless lightning bolts tangled together and bound the purple cloud together, forming a 9-layered purple square altar. The altar was divided into 9 layers, like a pyramid. Every time it went up, it would shrink in size. Bang! Once the purple altar was formed, it immediately fell and heavily landed in the center of the purple pool. The bottom of the purple pool and the bottom of the altar touched each other. Suddenly, the altar seemed to grow out of the purple pool. In an instant, the purple pool was connected to the altar. The purple pool also seemed to sublimate. Endless purple divine light burst forth. In the divine light, the souls that had no place to stay because the space in the purple pool was full suddenly seemed to have found a place to return to. They rushed into the altar like swallows returning to their nest. Strangely enough, as soon as they rushed into the altar, an image of a soul would appear on the surface of the altar. It was the image of a divine soul. This image was quite small. When a large number of divine souls rushed in, it formed an image, but only the first 3 layers of the altar were filled. Further up, there were still 6 layers of the altar that were empty. This altar could accommodate fighting souls. The appearance of this altar seemed to be a transformation of the purple pool. Then, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that rushed in also began to gather at the edge of the purple pool. Not long after, it all condensed into purple chi and surrounded the purple pool. The purple king mark that appeared on Di Shirtian's forehead became more ancient and mysterious. The purple light within it became more profound. Every time it flashed, it seemed to be able to swallow divine souls. The divine souls in the wasteland rushed into the king mark. It was very fast. This lasted for an entire afternoon, and no more divine souls came out of the wasteland. Ah! All of a sudden, there seemed to be a flash of lightning in Sakra's mind. His mind abruptly returned back to reality. His eyes quickly scanned the surroundings and looked at the scenery around him. He could not help but be surprised in his heart. Countless pieces of flesh were scattered on the ground in front of him, cut into countless pieces. It was a scene of thousands of cut. It could be seen that the number of people who had died here was definitely not small. Could it be that I did this? Wasn't I singing "A Man Can Walk" just now? Why did I suddenly come here? Something seems to have happened in the middle? He secretly frowned and gently shook his head. Suddenly, countless images suddenly appeared in the depths of his mind. These images were all the scenes and actions that had happened before. The scene that had attracted countless divine souls in the wasteland, the shocking power that had killed more than a dozen cultivators with one stroke. All of these flashed through his mind quickly. That stroke. Di Shirtian thought of the powerful stroke that had been released by the tiger soul. The light in his eyes became abnormally bright. His body trembled a little because the various insights of that stroke were all in his mind. It was a unique battle skill that had been created in that inexplicable state by relying on the opportunity to attract divine souls and various opportunities. The strength of its power could be said to be shocking, and ghosts and gods would weep. However, there was one thing that was a little regretful. The various insights of this stroke when it was used, and the key points of the blade technique, were all in his mind. However, the reason why that stroke had the power to make ghosts and gods tremble was because it had fused with the killing power of countless divine souls. It was all poured into the tiger soul that could produce such a shocking power. If he were to use it again, it would be impossible for him to have such a strong power now. That adulterous couple is also dead? Di Shirtian muttered to himself and said, "That's good too." Although I had not recovered my consciousness at that time, they still died under my blade. Thinking about it, because he had suddenly chanted "A man walks this time," it had actually caused such an inconceivable thing. The commotion was indeed a little big. Moreover, the experience this time had greatly benefited his mind, and he did not plan to stay here for long. He glanced around, and his gaze fell on the broken corner of the formation map. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the formation map in his hand. Clang! With a clear sound, the tiger's soul returned to its sheath. With a thought, a demonic wind instantly lifted his body, and he quickly left the wasteland. He wanted to rush back to the Myriad Demon Valley as quickly as possible. The experience this time was a complete accident, but only he knew how great of a benefit he had obtained from this accident. He wanted to take advantage of this moment to hurry back to the valley and properly organize all the insights and absorb them completely. He had a feeling that as long as he comprehended all of them, his strength would cross a huge gap because of this. He would be able to reach a higher level, especially that blade technique. If he completely comprehended it, he could completely make up for the lack of ultimate skills in blade technique. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 239. The Demon Clan Still Has a Future. On the largest 10,000 bone-devouring soul tree, the underworld Crow King quietly stood on the crown of the tree and watched Sakra's figure that swiftly left as he muttered. The scene from earlier had practically not missed a single trace of it in his eyes. After witnessing it with his own eyes, the shock in his heart was even more unforgettable. That monstrous and unparalleled divine power appeared in his mind. That blade that could cut through the sky and shatter the void gave him a stunning impression. It was powerful and terrifying. Almost no one could match that blade. That was no longer a simple blade technique. It had risen to the level of a battle technique. Moreover, it was a battle technique that could show disdain for the world. When unleashed to the limit, who in the world could match it? After a long time, the underworld Raven King's eyes slowly closed again. He breathed rhythmically. With every breath, wisps of gray death chi entered his body. Who exactly is this demon clan member? He could actually cause such a commotion and such a heavenly omen. Even I was shocked by the murderous aura that came just now. Even if I was at my peak, it would be extremely difficult to deal with it. Could it be that the demon clan is really not destined to die out? After so many years, could it be that an unparalleled powerhouse can still be born like in ancient times? In a huge ancient tree in the 100 Flowers Valley, true Lord Ku Rong was still integrated into the ancient tree. His entire body's aura was completely restrained, not leaking a single bit. His entire life force was connected to the tree's body, constantly devouring the ancient tree's enormous vitality and absorbing it into his own body. At this moment, his eyes opened. There were traces of fear and a complicated expression in his eyes. Although there is a possibility of becoming an unparalleled powerhouse, potential is still just potential. Now that this flower fairy is about to start her tribulation, her original body will definitely appear during the tribulation. At that time, I'll devour her in one fell swoop. With the enormous essence contained in it, it'll be enough to heal my injuries by 10 to 20%. At that time, I'll kill that little demon clan member along the way. So what if you have great potential? I'll destroy your hope. When he thought about how he had waited for so many years and was finally waiting for the best opportunity, his eyes could not help but emit traces of bright light. However, this light was only revealed for a moment before it was immediately withdrawn. Who is it? However, this glimmer of light did not escape Qin Shi's spiritual perception. He felt as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him in the darkness. It sent a chill down her spine. A pure consciousness quickly spread out, covering the entire 100 Flower Valley. It scanned every inch of space. Strange, I clearly felt a gaze sweep past me just now. Why can't I find it? Could it be my imagination? Chen Shi sat quietly in the room. His brows furrowed slightly, and a trace of doubt appeared on his flawless face. However, it still gave people a feeling of wanting to take pity on her. A woman like her seemed to have been created by the heavens. She was born to be cherished. He secretly thought that it was strange. After searching carefully again and again, he still could not find any clues, so he could only put it aside for the time being. How could she know that there was actually a person like perfected Lord Ku Rong in this world? He could hide himself in an ancient tree and conceal his aura completely. His means were truly extraordinary. Maybe it's really just my illusion. However, the day of my tribulation is getting closer and closer. It won't be long before I take that step. During this period of time, it seems that I should strengthen my vigilance, lest the cultivators with ulterior motives have a chance to plot against me during my tribulation. Although Chen Shi didn't find anything, she secretly strengthened her vigilance in her heart. Back then, when Medusa was transcending the demonic tribulation of the shape-shifting realm, she was plotted against by the Li family's ancestor. It was still vivid in her mind, so she had to be on guard. "Brother, you're back. Did you sing the song just now?" Di Shirtian rode the demon wind and directly returned to the myriad demon valley from the wilderness. As soon as he returned to the valley, Xiao Bai was standing in front of the cave residence, looking at her brother who was descending from midair with stars in her eyes. She asked in a childish voice, "Xiao Bai, don't worry about the songs. Put all your focus on cultivation. You must cultivate the tiger roar technique that I taught you. Once you've finished cultivating it, Big Brother will teach you the next step of the technique." Although Sakura was in a hurry to return to the abode to meditate and absorb this unexpected comprehension, when he saw Whitey, the only blood relative by his side until now, there was always a strand of tenderness that reverberated in his heart. He stopped and embraced Whitey as he spoke gently. For some reason, ever since he went to the Myriad Beast sect, no matter how Xiao Bai cultivated, there was no way for her to grow. Even if she was now at the peak of the demon beast realm, and could break through to the demon beast realm at any time, she still maintained her young body. It should be known that if Xiao Bai had not been following Di Shirtian's and Bai Hu's instructions to seriously build her foundation, with the support of countless spirit wines and spirit medicines, she could have stepped into the demon beast realm long ago. But now, she was still the same. "Humph, the Myriad Beast sect. What you did to Xiao Bai will come to an end sooner or later." Thinking of Xiao Bai's current situation, his eyes could not help but flash a trace of strong murderous intent. "He, brother, Xiao Bai is very hardworking, very hardworking." Sister Tian Xiang said before that Xiao Bai could break through to the demon beast realm. "Brother said before that you would give Xiao Bai a reward. You can't go back on your words." Xiao Bai tilted her head and said with a smile. In the valley, she felt very fulfilled every day with her brother accompanying her. It was just that she would often think of her mother White Tiger and second brother in the Myriad Beast sect. She would always wonder where they were and how they were doing. Xiao Bai is the most obedient. As long as you break through to the demon beast realm, brother will definitely give you a big surprise. Hearing Xiao Bai's young voice, Di Shirtian could not help but relax. He smiled faintly and lightly scratched her little nose. He said gently, "Xiao Bai will go into seclusion now. Xiao Bai will not come out until I become a demon beast." Hearing this, Xiao Bai's eyes immediately lit up. With a so sound, she jumped out of Di Shirtian's arms and quickly jumped into her small cave residence. She looked as if she could not wait. Looking at Xiao Bai's departing figure, Di Shirtian shook his head slightly and sighed in his heart. Xiao Bai, it's not that brother wants you to cultivate so desperately that I don't even have much time to accompany you. It's just that this world is a world where the strong preys on the weak. I can't always be by your side to protect you. Without strength, if there's really danger, I can't even save you in time. Also, mother and brother's life and death are still unknown. If I can really stand aloof from worldly affairs, I also want to be together with my family and enjoy life to the fullest." He sighed slightly. There were many things that he had to do. There was no way out. He turned and entered the cave residence. There was not a speck of dust in the cave. In the past few days, he had taught Chihua and the others various spells in the valley. Although these spells were similar to Di Shirtian in that they all carried demonic aura, it was fine as long as they were useful and had power. On the contrary, with demonic aura mixed in, the power was often stronger. Learning spells, or to the demon race, could be considered demonic art. Baisusu often came to the cave residence to help clean. Using the water condensation technique and the wind manipulation technique, she could make the cave residence spotless in the blink of an eye. After all, this was a token of her subordinates' goodwill. Baisusu was a woman and was more meticulous. Di Shirtian did not reject her. After entering the cave residence, he sat down on a cushion. He closed the stone door and sealed the cave residence. He gradually closed his eyes and immersed his mind in his mind. He constantly recalled all his experiences and insights in the withered bone wilderness. The Song of Slaughter had attracted the remnant souls of countless ancient gods, demons, and demons who had died in the withered bone wilderness, as well as the last trace of killing intent in their bodies. All of it poured into his body. At that time, his mind was in an inexplicable state. It was in a state of sublimation and transformation. Only then could he not be affected by the endless killing intent. In that kind of situation, his aura and even his cultivation base were rising rapidly, reaching an unimaginable level. It was as if every move he made contained an earth-shattering and invincible power. It was a powerful feeling of standing at the peak of power. At that moment, his entire mind seemed to have become a demon sage with unparalleled power, a demon god. Of course, the power at that moment was not Di Shirtian's own power. It was a power that he obtained in a short period of time through the help of countless souls. When the time came, it would naturally dissipate. That was a power that did not belong to him. Di Shirtian was in a hurry to return. Of course, it was not because he wanted to keep the power that did not belong to him. Instead, he wanted to experience the feeling of stepping to the peak in an instant. That kind of extraordinary understanding of heaven and earth. That trace of the mark of the peak power. He instinctively felt that if he could understand this trace of mark, it would definitely be immeasurably beneficial to his future cultivation. Just think about it. Although he was in the demonic beast realm, he was able to understand the unseen experience of a peerless powerhouse. He was able to experience the power of a peak realm. That kind of feeling was almost like a guiding light on the path of cultivation. It guided him in the right direction. It allowed him to climb all the way and play an even more motivating role. This was the realm. Different realms would have different understandings and have different understandings of power. Just think about it. How big was the gap between a demon beast who had reached the peak and a demon beast who had not? One was equivalent to recultivating with the realm, while the other was starting from scratch. It was difficult to move forward. It was easy to imagine the difference between the two. Di Shirtian immersed his mind and tried to search for that trace of mark, that trace of feeling, because he knew that this was the greatest opportunity and the greatest gain. If he gave up, he was afraid that he would regret it for the rest of his life. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 240. Of course, with Di Shirtian's current cultivation, it was impossible for him to fully comprehend or even understand this peak understanding. However, he did not need to fully comprehend it. He only needed to remember the feeling when he was at the peak. That was enough. This understanding was only a reference, a guiding light. True comprehension was something that only truly belonged to oneself when one had truly climbed to the pinnacle of the world. After sealing the cave dwelling and entering the cave, a full month had passed. Tian was still sitting quietly on the futon. When the appetite in his body was aroused, he would gulp down a few mouthfuls of spirit wine. Temporarily restraining himself, he allowed his mind to slowly adapt to this feeling and fuse with it. That understanding was not too difficult to find. Within a month, he finally found it and branded this feeling in his mind, so that he would never forget it and would be able to comprehend it from time to time. After doing all this, he did not leave the cave dwelling. Instead, he continued his closed-door training in the cave dwelling. Compared to this peak comprehension, what he was more concerned about was the world-shaking strike he had used in the withered bone wasteland back then. Even now, the elegance of that strike was still constantly hovering in his mind. Even now, the power of that slash was something that even he could not help but marvel at, even if he was the one executing it. Shocking power was no longer enough to describe its supreme power. He could feel that even if the gods and Buddhas that had transcended the mortal world had appeared in front of him, they would still be able to kill anything that stood in their way. It could make heaven and earth tremble. Moreover, the most amazing thing was that this blade was a supreme battle skill that he had unintentionally created. Seriously thinking about it, the appearance of this battle skill was really a great opportunity. Under normal circumstances, it was almost impossible to create such a battle skill. This was because he simply did not have the foundation and accumulation to create such a battle skill. Thinking about it, those who could create cultivation skills and battle skills were all peerless geniuses. They had extensive knowledge of countless cultivation skills and battle skills and had a deep understanding of the principles of heaven and earth. In addition, they had amazing attainments in certain aspects and a certain amount of opportunity. Only then could he create it. On the other hand, Tian had only been practicing the saber for half a year. He was still miles away from that requirement. Creating a new move was almost impossible. However, it just so happened that Tian's fortuitous encounter was extremely profound. It was as if he was born with great luck. At that time, his mind was in a state of emptiness. Under the agitation of the murderous song, there was a vast and mighty aura in his chest. At that time, when thousands of remnant souls of gods and devils poured into his body, countless murderous aura condensed in his body. The murderous intent of those gods and devils tangled together, more or less carrying a trace of the understanding of slaughter from when they were alive. Comprehension of the realm. And at that moment, Tian took the opportunity to slash out with his saber. The remnant comprehension of slaughter in the god-fiend's remnant soul immediately spewed out like a fountain. With Tiger Soul as the center, it instantly evolved into a shocking move. It could be said that Tian was able to create that move not relying on his own accumulation and comprehension, but the last trace of comprehension and experience of those remnant souls fused together to form a great killing move. The momentum of the saber was like the angry roar of heaven and earth, mixed with the murderous intent of the gods and devils. It was the trace of unwillingness and persistence of the gods and devils when they fell and killed. When the saber was unleashed, it danced with the gods and devils. Its strength was unparalleled in the world. Since it was a battle skill that evolved from the final murderous intent of the gods and devils, why don't I name it the God and Devil's Morning? Tian recalled the scene of the saber being slashed out in his mind. He could faintly feel his blood boiling in his body. He had the urge to pull out his saber and kill on the spot. It really had a unique concept of battle intent. When cultivating a saber battle skill, one had to practice it personally with a saber. There was no way to use it in the cave. He could only first use the various techniques of the God and Devil's Morning in his mind. He quickly broke down the various battle skills in his mind and absorbed them. He had to first silently practice each part in his mind 1,000 times, no 10,000 times, until he could accurately grasp the crux of the battle skill. This God and Devil's Morning will be my killing move from now on. I can't use it casually in front of others. It should be used as a trump card. Tian secretly made up his mind in his heart. The God and Devil's Morning was powerful, but apart from this move, he didn't have any other powerful battle skills. The only thing he could use was a set of basic saber technique. In order to use this saber technique, one had to rely on one's own ability to adapt on the spot. He had to see the situation and use the saber technique accordingly. With the power of the God and Devil's Morning, it was best to use a trump card that could reverse the situation and turn the tables on the spot. With the experience of a lifetime, he deeply knew that in this world, no matter what, one could not lose a trump card. Without a trump card in one's hand, one would be passive. Trump cards, he had always been very important to him. The Divine Song of Seven Sins, this peerless divine song, was his biggest trump card. This trump card was the reason why he dared to face the great sect of the cultivation world, the Thousand Beasts sect. It could even be said that it was the source of his confidence. He had never used it in front of anyone, even when he was almost killed by the skeleton sovereign king. As long as he wasn't forced into a desperate situation, he resisted the urge to use this trump card. One trump card was far from enough. Now that he had the God and Devil's Morning, it would be another trump card. If used well, it could turn the situation around. He constantly comprehended the God and Devil's Morning in his mind. He wanted to deeply imprint this battle skill in his heart, imprint it on his body, and even make it an instinctive existence. Besides the God and Devil's Morning, what Tian cared about the most was the strange change that had occurred in the Purple King mark. He didn't know why, but he had a faint feeling that this change was a metamorphosis of his innate ability, an evolution. What he cared about more was the purple altar that had appeared in the king mark. That altar was very mysterious. At that time, countless remnant souls had entered the space of the king mark, turning into battle souls and rushing into the altar. On the surface of the altar, there were layers upon layers of strange fighting souls. Moreover, the altar was completely connected to the purple pool, as if they were born together. The power of the purple pool constantly flowed into the altar, and then into the bodies of the fighting souls on the altar. It was very strange. Since the appearance of the altar, he felt that he had a deeper understanding of the power of the king mark. It was as if he was gradually fusing it with his innate ability. Unfortunately, he still couldn't completely master it. It was as if the innate ability hadn't completely taken shape and hadn't completely transformed. Other than the altar, it was as if something else was missing. Perhaps when the king mark transformed to a certain extent, the purple pool inside would grow and he would be able to completely master his innate ability. My innate ability doesn't seem to be as simple as I thought. A thought quickly flashed through his mind. However, he didn't think too much about it and silently absorbed the things that he had obtained this time. These were all true wealth, and they were things that couldn't be bought with money. Finally, another month passed. Rumble! The stone door in front of the cave house made a muffled sound and quickly rose up. Tian was dressed in a black robe, and the domineering tiger soul was on his back. After the tiger soul drank the blood, it devoured the blood essence and soul essence of more than 10 cultivators. Overall, it had an additional demonic murderous aura and an additional power that could intimidate one's mind. Pata! Looking up, the moonlight was like snow sprinkling down. It was already night, and all the intelligent demons in the valley were breathing under the moon, absorbing the essence of the sun and moon. Most of them knew how to work hard and cultivate. However, Tian was thinking about how to systematically create a cultivation system and environment for the demons in the valley. He already had a rough idea in his mind, and now, with the demon cultivation manuals he had obtained from the 100 Flowers Valley, his idea gradually began to be put on the agenda. Rumble! After leaving the cave residence, he walked straight ahead. Not long after, he arrived in front of the waterfall where he had been practicing his saber for half a year. As the saying went, the water flows down 3,000 feet, as if the Milky Way falls from the 9 heavens. The waterfall fell from the sky and collided with the lake water in the pool, making a series of loud crashing sounds. Thick water vapor blew in his face, making him feel relaxed and happy. Clang! His right hand instantly grasped the hilt of the Tiger Soul saber on his back. With a twist of his wrist, a crisp sound rang out, and the Tiger Soul was unsheathed. Once it was out of the sheath, the saber did not stop. It slashed out with the saber and changed into various techniques rapidly. Slash, chop, drive, block, slap, and lift. The moves were displayed rapidly. Moreover, he did not use all of the moves. When he was halfway through, he immediately changed into other moves like flowing water. There was not a trace of rigidity or hindrance in the change. It was as if he was carrying out an antelope's horn, untraceable. It was abnormally natural. In the past few months, his saber technique had a deeper understanding and improvement. Ha! Suddenly, when he lifted the Tiger Soul above his head with a lift, De Chertien's expression suddenly became abnormally serious. The demon essence in his body quickly circulated in a mysterious way and poured into the Tiger's soul. A golden saber gleam that was dozens of feet long burst out from the Tiger's soul saber. Even the darkness of the night could not cover up that gleam. It was abnormally bright. The Tiger's soul moved in a mysterious trajectory and quickly slashed down at the waterfall. The terrifying might was like the vast might of the heavens. Wherever the saber went, one could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Around the Tiger's soul, gods and demons strangely condensed. These gods and demons were all different. They waved sabers in their hands. The sabers used the simplest saber techniques, but the sabers contained a terrifying power. Boundless murderous aura rose. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 241. Tiger Soul soared through the sky, accompanied by gods and demons. These gods and demons were summoned by the saber intent in Tiger Soul. They were formed by heaven and earth, and they were formed by the boundless murderous aura that De Chertien possessed. Every god and demon had a different appearance. Moreover, there were all kinds of flaws on their bodies, as if they had gone through countless battles to form their broken bodies. Their bodies also emitted a shocking murderous aura. It was the tragic slaughter that the gods and demons released when they died. The terrifying aura that caused heaven and earth to weep for them was completely revealed in this slash. There weren't many gods and demons formed around Tiger Soul. There were only 100 of them, and they didn't cover a large area. However, all living beings in this area were faced with the sorrow of the gods and demons' deaths and the terrifying saber intent. Even the air under the saber seemed to be completely frozen. All the gods and demons were holding a saber in their hands. The sabers slashed out with different saber technique. These saber techniques were the only saber techniques that De Chertien knew. They were the various basic saber technique. Although they were simple, every slash seemed to follow the path of heaven and earth. They were mixed with boundless murderous aura. It was as if they were facing the power of heaven and earth. Bang! Rumble! The power of the death of the gods and demons bombarded the vast waterfall that was flowing straight down. The waterfall shattered on the spot, turning into countless water droplets that shot out in all directions. However, before they could shoot out, the gods and demons' sabers completely turned them into powder. The waterfall that was originally pouring down was annihilated by the slash of the saber. Not a single drop of water fell into the pool. The waterfall that flowed all year round was actually cut off by this slash of the saber. The sharp edge of Tiger's soul landed on the mountain peak behind the waterfall, forming a terrifying saber mark in the middle. It was as if there was a huge hole in the middle, and it was extremely mystical. Rumble. Tian didn't intend to completely destroy the waterfall with this slash of the saber. He only destroyed the water that was pouring down at that time, turning it into nothingness. In the blink of an eye, another waterfall began to fall from the peak of the mountain again. Looking at the clear splashes of water, it made one's heart feel peaceful. Yes. Although it's far from the first time I used it, it's just right for me now. If it's any stronger, I'm afraid my own demonic chi won't be able to support it. Closing his eyes, he silently sensed every moment he had used the divinity and devil morning. As he experienced it, he gained a deeper understanding of the divinity and devil morning. Although it wasn't as terrifying as it had been back in the withered bone wasteland, he could clearly sense that if he used it, he would be invincible among core formation cultivators in the immortal cultivation world. Even a nascent soul realm cultivator would have the chance to kill him if he was careless. However, this move did consume a lot of demonic chi. Based on his current strength, he could only use the Godfiend's morning 3 times at most. Its power and consumption were almost directly proportional. If the power was a little bit stronger, Tian suspected that if he used it, there might be the possibility of sucking people dry. Ha! Tian stood quietly on the spot, silently circulating his cultivation technique. He urged the demon refining cauldron in his demon abode to spin quickly, driving the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth into his body like a whirlwind. This was the good thing about a heaven-grade demon abode. No matter how much energy was consumed, the speed of recovery was second to none in the world. Ba-dump, ba-dump. His heart was beating rapidly. The frequency of his heartbeat was far beyond the limits of ordinary living beings. Every second, his heart would beat hundreds of times. Waves of demonic chi spewed out from his heart and flowed through his demonic meridians to all parts of his body. After a while, the demonic chi he had consumed was completely recovered. Looking at the night sky, the moon was gradually tilting, and the moonlight it emitted was slowly diminishing. The surrounding darkness became even more dense. It was already the darkest moment before dawn. After a while, the sun would rise and a new day would begin. Holding the tiger soul, he didn't plan to waste this beautiful moment. He raised the tiger soul and continued to practice the only set of basic saber techniques that he knew. Rumble! At this moment, a terrifying thunderclap suddenly sounded in the sky above the southern wilderness. This thunderclap was even weirder than ordinary thunderclap. The sound seemed to carry the majesty of heaven and earth, and naturally contained a vast deterrent force. It seemed to be able to shake the void. The sound was so loud that it almost resounded throughout the southern wilderness in an instant. It woke up countless demons who were inhaling and exhaling moonlight, as well as animals who were sleeping in their nest. What was truly frightening was the vast and mighty pressure that came from the void. It was like the might of heaven, and like a tide, it swept in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the entire southern wilderness was completely shrouded under the pressure. Under this pressure, all the spiritual beasts below the demonic beast realm were pressed to the ground, unable to move. This thunder, I've heard it before. Tian turned his wrist and quickly sheathed the tiger's soul into the scabbard. His gaze shot straight into the void. There was an indescribable and extremely difficult to understand look in his eyes. Your Majesty! Feeling the terrible pressure coming from the void, only Chi-Hua and the others could still move in the myriad demon valley. Only the demonic beasts could temporarily resist it. With a shout, Chi-Hua and the others quickly rushed out from all directions of the valley and rushed toward Tian's location. With Chi-Hua in the lead, Yuan Tian, Bai Yu, and Ing Kong all appeared one after another. There was a faint trace of demonic chi on their bodies, resisting the pressure of the outside world. However, they still walked quite steadily and quickly. Obviously, with the support of countless spiritual wines, each of them had laid a strong foundation. Their potential was far stronger than that of other demonic beasts. "Well, you're all here." Tian glanced at Chihua, Baiyu, and the others and nodded slightly. "Your Majesty, what was the thunder just now? And this pressure, it's so uncomfortable." Baisusu's huge body swayed slightly as she felt the pressure from the void. She felt that the surrounding air seemed to have solidified. It made them feel quite uncomfortable. "Yes, Your Majesty, this situation seems to have never happened before." Chihua's two ox eyes revealed a curious look. Although he was an ox, his brain was not stupid. He just looked calmer, with the steadiness and persistence of an ox. Faintly, one could see the hatred and persistence in his eyes from time to time. The scene of his own child being killed in front of him was still vivid in his mind, and he had never forgotten it. This was also the source and motivation of his cultivation. This is the demonic beast clan in the southern barbarian is about to begin their tribulation. Moreover, I'm afraid it's not an ordinary shape-shifting demonic tribulation, but a more powerful heavenly tribulation. Tian turned his back to them and raised his head to look at the void. His expression became abnormally solemn. He had a general understanding of the situation in the southern barbarian. Most of the core forces were actually some demonic beasts in the southern barbarian, as well as the demonic beast kings. The ones at the top were the demonic beasts that had condensed inner cores. As far as he knew, there were only 2 demonic beasts that had condensed inner cores in the southern barbarian. One was Medusa, and the other was Chen Shi, the master of the 100-Flower Valley, who he could not see through the most. The current situation was obviously not a sign of the shape-shifting demonic tribulation. If he ruled out this possibility, it would be the heavenly tribulation after condensing inner cores. "Your Majesty, look, a cloud is falling. That direction seems to be the center of the southern barbarian." Kong's eyes were the sharpest. Moreover, he was flying high up in the sky. With a glance, he discovered that a strange black cloud had suddenly condensed. Within the black cloud, streaks of resplendent lightning flashed rapidly, illuminating the surrounding sky in a bizarre and dazzling light. It was abnormally strange and terrifying. After the formation of the black cloud, the originally vast pressure suddenly rose a little, appearing even more terrifying. Near the black cloud, many ordinary animals had been pressed to the point that blood was constantly gushing out of their mouths, eyes, and noses. Their bodies trembled violently like a chaff. "That's the tribulation cloud. Not good, that direction is the 100-Flower Valley. The one undergoing the tribulation is Chen Shi." A light flashed in Sakra's eyes as he immediately saw the direction of the tribulation cloud. In just a split second, he made up his mind and said, "No matter if it is or not, I have to go and take a look. The tribulation is incomparably dangerous. She gave me so many precious scriptures. At this critical moment I should go and protect her." He murmured. He had seen the tribulation more than once. The tribulation he saw in Tiger Hill was so terrifying that it was deeply imprinted in his mind. No matter when, the tribulation was an extremely important thing. "Your Majesty, let's go together. Now that we have become monsters, we can help you more or less. Please take us with you." Chihua heard it and immediately stepped forward without hesitation and said expectantly, "Yes, Your Majesty. In the past, you were the only one who went out to fight. As your subordinates, we couldn't share your worries. Now that we have the strength, it's time for us to contribute. Your Majesty, please take us with you." Baiwei and others looked at each other and knelt down in unison. Their voices were unusually determined. Now that they were monsters, they also wanted to let out their own roar to help their Majesty share his worries. Tian heard it and frowned slightly. He glanced at Chihua, Baiwei, and others who were kneeling behind him. His eyes were thoughtful. He thought to himself, only by going through storms can one be independent in the future. It's time to let them go and explore. After pondering for a moment, he said seriously, "Okay, this time we will go to the 100-Flower Valley to guard her. I will let you see the tribulation. It will be of great help to you when you go through the tribulation in the future. Come with me," Tian said indifferently. With a thought, a demon wind appeared out of thin air and appeared beside him. It suddenly rolled him up into the air and flew forward. The demon wind was black and looked like a black demon cloud. It rolled away. "If you have tickets, please help me. And if you are reading outside the station, I hope that you can come back and give me a few recommendations after you finish reading." To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author and support the original reading. Chapter 242. Roar! Kong himself was the king of the sky. Although he also knew the imperial wind technique, but if he used the imperial wind technique, what was the use of his wings? He flapped his wings heavily and instantly, golden light flickered above his head as he followed closely behind Sakura. Chihua and the others followed suit. They used the imperial wind technique one after another, creating a gust of demonic wind. They soared into the sky and rushed towards the 100 Transformation Valley in a grandiose manner. Combined together, it was truly a demonic wind. Demonic chi surged, whistling through the air above the mountain forest. Sister Chen, she is going to face the 19th heavenly tribulation. She is a plant spirit, so the 19th heavenly tribulation is the most important to her. There can't be any accidents. I have always been the one to accept her kindness. This time, I can't shirk the responsibility of protecting her. If there is a thief spying on her and hurting her, I, Medusa, will be the sinner of the entire southern barbarian. A colorful clothed Medusa's expressionless eyes revealed traces of warmth as she stood on a mountain peak. There was also a faint feeling of tenseness. She did not even need to think as she opened her mouth and spat out. A crystal-clear mirror that was mixed with a cluster of colorful light flew out of her body. The edges of this mirror were surprisingly covered in a snake-shaped pattern. It was as if there were colorful snakes coiled together on the edge. As soon as the mirror appeared, it flipped and emitted waves of sparkling light. It quickly grew bigger and became the size of a millstone in the blink of an eye. Medusa flew into the air and landed on the mirror. The mirror pulled out streaks of colorful light and took her to the 100-Flower Valley. Back then, Tian had taught her the method to refine life source magic treasures. Naturally, she hadn't been idle all these years and had refined this mirror. Looking at the light emitted from its surface, it could be seen that its quality had stepped into the ranks of magic treasures. It was a demon treasure. It was called the God-suppressing mirror and was very powerful. It had a very magical ability. Such a natal magic weapon had unknowingly multiplied her strength. All these years, she had been carefully cultivating this demonic weapon. He had poured a lot of effort into it, and it could be said to be incomparably marvelous. In the sky, the black tribulation cloud became denser and denser as time passed. The vast heavenly might was emitted from the tribulation cloud, and there were countless ferocious lightning flashing on it. It seemed that Duan was abnormally terrifying. Every strand of lightning contained the power of heaven and earth. This was a heavenly tribulation, a tribulation cloud. It was a terrifying power used by the heavens to intimidate all living beings. It represented the might of the world. Every strand of lightning contained the power of the world. It had a powerful restraining power against all things in the world, especially demons. Its power was even more terrifying when it erupted. For many lesser demons, thunder was the power of the heavens. When it rained and thundered, they would stay in their caves and not dare to go out. They were afraid of being struck by a thunderbolt. If that happened, they would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. For those monsters who had cultivated successfully, it was still quite a deterrent. Perhaps they were not too afraid of other lightning, but the heavenly tribulation was different. Under the heavenly tribulation, nothing dared to be arrogant. The power of the heavenly tribulation was too terrifying. You could dodge ordinary lightning, but even if you burrowed into the ground, this heavenly tribulation would still follow you. If it wanted to hit you, even if you went up to the sky or down to the ground, there was no possibility of dodging. The only way was to face it head-on. The heavenly tribulation didn't care what defensive means you used, but it would hit you. If you had the ability to withstand it, then that was your ability. If you couldn't, sorry, but you couldn't pass the test of heaven and earth. It was better to just accept it. Sister, the heavenly tribulation is here. You can definitely pass it successfully. Under the tribulation cloud, there was a valley. Countless flowers were blooming in the valley. Even under the heavenly tribulation, these flowers were still blooming tenaciously. Traces of the essence of the flowers were constantly being emitted from the flowers, rushing towards the beautiful girl who was like a white lotus that had just emerged from the water. It was as if they were trying their best to help that girl. She stood under the tribulation cloud. Between her slender fingers, there was a pink flower petal. She raised her head, revealing that beautiful face that could make all things in the world lose their color. Her face was calm, as if she was not under the heavenly tribulation. Although I made a lot of preparations for the 19th heavenly tribulation this time, under the heavenly tribulation, no one dares to say that they can pass it with 100% certainty. No one knows what will happen. As the saying goes, natural disasters and man-made disasters. Even if it is the heavenly tribulation, it may also be accompanied by external disasters. Whether or not you can pass it depends on your destiny. Chen-Shi's state of mind had long been promoted to a state of calmness. She nodded with a smile and said, "Well, this heavenly tribulation is not the metamorphosis heavenly tribulation. Although it is only the first of the heavenly tribulations that the demon tribe has to pass, the 19th heavenly tribulation, its power is not something you can withstand. Quickly fall out of the heavenly tribulation. Sister will be fine." Looking at her expression, she seemed to be very indifferent. In fact, in her heart, she valued this matter more than anyone else. It should be known that the human tribe was born with a Taoist body and was blessed by heaven and earth. In cultivation, they could go all the way until the tribulation realm, only then would they encounter the heavenly tribulation. Although the heavenly tribulation was very powerful, once they passed it, they would step into the earthly immortal realm and could ascend at any time. Even if only 1 out of 10 survived, there was still hope. However, it was different for the demon clan. Ever since the ancient times, the demon clan's cultivation had been extremely difficult. Every step was a matter of life and death. When a demon beast condensed its inner core and became a demon, it had to undergo the demon tribulation. After that, with every step forward, it had to undergo a heavenly tribulation. It was called the 9 levels of heavenly tribulation, or the 9 demon tribulation. When the inner core reached the peak of the first revolution, one would have to go through the first 9 demonic tribulations. If one could pass through the first 9 demonic tribulations, one would have to go through the second revolution. When one reached the peak of the second revolution, one would have to go through the second revolution. When one reached the third revolution, one would officially be called a demonic beast king. After that, the inner core would reach the 6 transformations and become a great demon. When the inner core reached the 9 transformations, one would have passed the 9 demonic tribulations and become a demon saint with boundless power. Those that were able to achieve the martial sacred realm were all peerless rulers, dominating a region. According to the legends, there were no longer any martial sacred beasts in the purple gold continent. This was because once one reached the great demon realm, one could directly enter the demon realm. Great demons were already powerful experts. Just think about it, every step forward would require one to go through a heavenly tribulation. Every step was a grave. Those that were able to cultivate to the great demon realm could do whatever they wanted in the continent. Unfortunately, it had been many years since such an existence appeared in the demon realm. It was said that even in the demon realm, there were only a few martial sacred beasts, and not many great demon beasts. To be honest, Baihu and the rest of the 8 great demon kings that were famous in the immortal cultivation world were called demon kings, but they had not truly reached the demon king realm. They had yet to go through the 9 demonic tribulations. Currently, the demon race only needed to go through the first 9 demonic tribulations to be called demon kings. It was truly unworthy of the name. Otherwise, how could a nascent soul realm cultivator stand a chance against a real demon king? If Baihu truly possessed the strength of a demon king, Qingyun Zi would not have dared to hunt her down in the past. He would be lucky if he did not find a hole to hide in. He would not dare to face a real demon king even if he had 3 gut. The reason why there were so few experts among the demon race was because of the difficulty of the demon tribulations, especially the 9 demonic tribulations, 9 demonic tribulations, and the final 9 demonic tribulations. These 3 tribulations were much more terrifying than the previous ones. This was the most powerful test. The number of strange demons who had fallen in this 3-stage demonic tribulation was not small at all. The first 9 demonic tribulations might be important to others, but it was even more important to Chen Shi. The difference between the flora elves made their cultivation more difficult. Other demon beasts could easily switch between their original form and their transformed form after overcoming the demon tribulation of form transformation. However, the flora elves had to overcome the first 9 demonic tribulations and borrow the power of the demon tribulation to fully merge their original form with their body, allowing them to truly transform. They no longer needed to be restricted by the terrain, and could go anywhere at will. Why didn't the other demon beasts in the southern barbarian come to protect Elder Sister when she was going through the tribulation? It's really a waste to teach them cultivation methods before. When Elder Sister was in trouble, they all hid somewhere. Vermilion Bird pouted and shouted angrily. In her 2 eyes, there was no longer the previous cunning and playfulness, which had long been replaced by a worried and nervous look. From time to time, she would shout a few words angrily. She was afraid that if something really happened, what should she do at that time? Zhu, you're wrong. The Kingdom of Dawn is about to undergo her tribulation. Even though I can't be of much help during her tribulation, I still have to bear the responsibility of being a protector. Anyone who wants to cause trouble during the Kingdom of Dawn's tribulation will have to first ask for my permission and the permission of the tiger soul in my hands. A voice full of majesty broke through the air and appeared in the valley. The voice was incomparably calm, and it sounded like it contained an endless deterrent aura, which made people's hearts and minds turn solemn. Elder Sister, it's Big Brother D, it's Big Brother D. Zhu knew that Big Brother D would definitely rush over when he saw the tribulation clouds. My guess was right. Zhu looked in the direction of the voice and saw the figure standing in the rolling demon cloud. She couldn't help but cry out in joy. Big Brother D is really something. He even brought all the demon beasts in the valley over. Whoosh! With a sweep of the demonic wind, Di Shirtian quickly descended from the sky with Qihua and the rest. When he landed in the valley, he naturally emitted a heavy aura. He was imposing without being angry. Since it's Chen Shi's tribulation, there's no reason for me not to come. Di Shirtian looked at Chen Shi. When he saw that Chen Shi's expression didn't change in the face of the heavenly tribulation, he couldn't help but secretly admire him. Good Sakura, you actually came faster than me, old black. Bang bang bang. With a series of heavy footsteps, the Black Ape King's body, which was as tall as King Kong, quickly stepped into the valley. Howl! A high-pitched cry of a crane sounded from the south. A snow-white cloud appeared in the sky. Upon closer inspection, it was the red-crowned crane king that had also rushed over. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 243. That white cloud was the scene of her spreading out her wings, covering the sky and the earth. As a veteran demonic beast king in the southern barbarian lands, the red-crowned crane king was not ordinary. Usually, when it stood on a tree and folded its wings, there was no big difference. It looked just like an adult Sika deer. However, when it flew into the sky and spread its wings, its snow-white feathers would cover a large part of the sky. Looking at the length of its wings, it was no less than 30 to 40 feet wide. When it appeared in the sky, it indeed had the aura of covering the sky. Moreover, its feathers were all snow-white, and there was a red dot on its head. Its snow-white neck was raised high, making it look very noble. Sister Crane is here too. The vermilion bird was like a little princess in the southern barbarian. All the monster kings knew her, and they usually doted on her. The men called her Big Brother, and the women called her Big Sister. Brothers and sisters were everywhere in the southern barbarian. According to her own words, the more brothers and sisters she had, the more people she would help when something happened. If something happened, her brothers and sisters would be in front of her, and she would wave the flag and cheer from behind. Sister is going to face the tribulation. As her younger sister, there is no reason for me not to come. No matter who it is, as long as they dare to cause trouble at this time, even if I have to give up my life, I will definitely not let them hurt Sister She. The red-crowned crane king was like a white cloud, quickly descending from the sky and looking at Chen Shi in the valley outside the tribulation cloud. Seeing Chen Shi's calmness in the face of the monster tribulation, she could not help but be impressed. Big Brother D is here. That black block is here too. Now, Sister Crane is here too. That annoying crow and the golden lion should be here soon. Yes, there is also Sister Medusa. She has formed an inner core. When she comes, she will definitely guard the valley like an iron bucket. The vermilion bird chirped happily. She tilted her head and said, Big Sister said that before she faced the tribulation, she sensed that the 19-demon tribulation this time is not only a heavenly tribulation, but also an external tribulation. An external tribulation was a tribulation outside of the heavenly tribulation. For example, a cultivator had already passed through the heavenly tribulation. However, after passing through the heavenly tribulation, the cultivator's cultivation was completely exhausted. At this time, an enemy suddenly appeared and attacked the cultivator from behind. The cultivator might be in danger of dying. This was the external tribulation. It was outside of the heavenly tribulation, and no one could predict it. Whether it was real or not was very difficult to predict. Therefore, many cultivators who were about to face their heavenly tribulation would go out alone and find a hidden place that only they knew about to face their heavenly tribulation. In this way, it was possible to eliminate the chances of the enemy finding an opportunity to make a move. If one went through untold hardships to pass the heavenly tribulation, only to have a brick smack in the back of the head, then it would be a great injustice. Tian naturally understood this possibility. Back then, when Medusa was facing the demonic tribulation of the form transformation, she was targeted by the Li family's ancestor. She was almost hit in the head by that brick. And it was a huge golden brick. She had nowhere to go even if she had been wronged. Therefore, the incident back then taught them a lesson. As the saying goes, fall into the pit, learn from your mistakes. In order to prevent the incident from happening again, Tian and the others did not hesitate to come and protect them. To prevent the appearance of those sinister villains who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Bang, bang, bang! The ground was shaking. The Black Ape King had already arrived at the valley. His body had shrunk significantly on purpose, but he still looked 4 to 5 meters tall, like a black diamond. The hair all over his body was coiled up, and the firm muscles on his chest gave people a feeling of strength. The Black Ape King reached out and hammered his chest a few times, and dull sounds kept coming out. When his bell-like eyes saw Tion and the red-crowned Crane King, he could not help but grin and call out cheerfully, "Brother D, Crane King, you guys came faster than me. I haven't seen you for a while. Brother D, I heard that you have a group of monkeys in your Myriad Demon Valley who know how to make wine. When the Demon King passes the demon tribulation, why don't we go to your place and have a drink?" As he spoke, his eyes shone. He stuck out his tongue and licked his lips, almost drooling. This black guy was also a guy who liked to drink. Unfortunately, he was born a gorilla and did not have the talent to make wine, so he could not make good wine. In the Southern Barbarian, there was also a group of monkeys who knew how to make wine. This guy would often sneak a drink when he had nothing to do. When the monkeys saw him, they would immediately think of a way to divert the good wine away. This guy was completely marked as a scourge. "If the Ape King is free, Tion welcomes you." Tion smiled indifferently and nodded. "Count me in." Just as he finished speaking, a golden lion with 3 heads on its neck appeared in the valley. Of these 3 heads, the eyes of the 2 on the left and right were always closed and never opened. Only the one in the middle was normal. Overall, it looked unusually fierce. It was the Golden Fur Lion King. He had also arrived as expected. That sentence seemed to be a response to Tion. The way it looked at him was vaguely different from back then. Swoosh! A colorful brilliance quickly flashed across the sky. A colorful and graceful figure suddenly descended from the sky. Her graceful and perfect figure was exposed under the colorful clothes. Medusa held the strange treasure mirror in her hand and calmly glanced at Tion and the others. She said indifferently, "You can come because you did not forget sister she's care for you. Okay, now is not the time to reminisce. You all spread out. You must grasp all the corners of the valley in your hands. There can't be any blind spots. This demon tribulation is very important to Sister She. Absolutely nothing can affect Sister She's tribulation. Even if there is an external tribulation, you must block it." In the sky, the tribulation clouds were getting denser and denser. The pitch-black clouds hung in the sky. Countless lightning flashed faster and faster. The mighty pressure became more condensed and terrifying. The petals of many flowers in the valley withered rapidly. However, at the moment when they withered, they did their best to release all of their essence and chi. They rushed toward Chen-Shi. The 19th demon tribulation was about to begin. Medusa was already the only demon clan in the Southern Barbarian who condensed an inner core other than Chen-Shi. At this moment, she gave orders in an orderly manner. The Black Ape King and the others all understood that no mistakes were allowed at this moment. They began to spread out in all directions and distributed in every corner of the valley. Tion directly guarded in front of the front exit of the valley. Chihua and the others all spread out. Their eyes were shining as they constantly scanned the surroundings. Wah! In the sky, an unusually unpleasant and hoarse cry sounded continuously. Looking into the distance, a black flock of crows had also arrived under the lead of the Underworld Raven King. The Underworld Raven King saw the scene in the valley and cried out loudly. Suddenly, the flock of crows circled in the sky for a while and quickly divided into 9 groups. They circled in all directions of the valley and guarded the sky near the valley. Crack! Within the tribulation clouds, thunderous roars resounded unceasingly. Every sound was like the roar of the heavens. A terrifying pressure descended from the heavens. This was the might of the heavens. The terrifying aura seemed to have completely solidified the space around the tribulation clouds. "I hope we can survive this tribulation this time." Chen Shi raised his head and looked at the tribulation cloud. Countless lightning flashed in the tribulation cloud. He knew that the tribulation cloud was brewing and accumulating power. Once it finished accumulating, it would be the time for the heavenly tribulation to descend. Looking at the situation, he was afraid that it would not be long. From the moment the tribulation cloud appeared, she clearly felt that there seemed to be a mysterious power in the tribulation cloud that had completely locked onto her. As long as the aura was still there, the tribulation cloud would never disappear. If she could not move fast enough, she would be struck into pieces. She also saw the arrival of Di Shirtian and the others. She secretly sighed in her heart. All these years of kindness were indeed not in vain. Senior sister, this is the Southern Barbarian. Are we really going to go in and capture a monster king? We may not be able to do such a thing. That's right, senior sister. In my opinion, we should capture a few monsters back and earn enough contribution points to exchange for cultivation resources. It's still a bit dangerous for us to go up against this kind of monster king. Why don't we just forget about it? At this time, there was a mountain peak near the Southern Barbarian. This mountain peak towered high, and the trees below were dense. However, there were no trees at the peak, and it was bare. However, there was a group of 9 cultivators standing on the mountain peak. The leader was actually a woman, and this woman was brimming with a heroic spirit. The expression on her face was unusually arrogant. He looked at the crowd of living beings as if he was looking at ants. Obviously, this girl was the senior sister that this group of cultivators were talking about. In addition to her, there were 8 people, 5 men and 3 women. The similarity was that they all looked very young. The women were all very beautiful in the secular world. They looked very pleasing to the eye. Forget it? This is a great opportunity in front of us. Look, the girl cast a disdainful glance at the words of the cultivators behind her. She pointed at the Southern Barbarian with a look of confidence and said, "The thunder in the sky above the Southern Barbarian is incessant, and the pressure it emits is so terrifying. I'm sure that the Monster King is going through the 9 levels monster tribulation after the monster clans form transformation monster tribulation. No matter which level it is, if you can't pass it, your soul will definitely be destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. Even if you pass it, you will definitely be seriously injured and on the verge of death. No matter which level it is, we can go in and gain considerable benefit. Moreover, look at what this is." The girl looked full of confidence. She stretched out her jade-like hand, and with a flash of light, a sparkling silk net appeared in her hand. Could this be the legendary inverse the universe demon binding net that our Thousand Beasts sect only has 3 pieces? A series of exclamations sounded instantly. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 244. Eldest Senior Sister, Master really thinks highly of you. He even gave you such a treasure. That's great. Legend has it that this net is cast using the inescapable net technique. Even if a monster that has condensed an inner core enters the net, it will have to obediently surrender. No wonder Senior Sister is so confident in dealing with the Southern Barbarian Demon King. It turns out that you have such a treasure in hand. A woman said enviously. Her gaze swept back and forth on the net from time to time. Not only her, but all the other cultivators looked at the girl in the lead with surprise and envy. This group of people could be said to be the number 1 enemy in the eyes of the Demon Clan. They were the disciples of the Thousand Beasts sect who had always been regarded as the god of plagues, jinxes, and even enemies. What did the Thousand Beasts sect rely on to become rich? What did they rely on to stand tall in the immortal cultivation world? What did they rely on to become a top sect and receive the respect of countless cultivators? It was none other than capturing spirit beasts, spirits, and even demonic beasts of the demon clan. They used special methods to enslave them and then sell them in exchange for huge profit. It could be said that the reason why the Thousand Beasts sect was able to remain so prosperous was completely built on the flesh and blood of the demon clan. It could be said that they were an existence similar to an executioner. For a long time, countless monster clans had wanted to destroy the Thousand Beasts sect, but they had been unable to do so. After so many years, the Thousand Beasts sect had absorbed enough blood from the monster clans and cultivated a strong foundation. They were simply afraid of the revenge of ordinary demon clans. It was fine if they didn't go, but if they did, they could capture them. It saved them a lot of effort. When it came to capturing demon clans, the Thousand Beasts sect did indeed have a set of terrifying method. The Thousand Beasts sect was divided into a total of 4 generations. The first generation was above the nascent soul stage, the second generation was above the core formation stage, the third generation was the foundation establishment stage, and the fourth generation was the chi refinement stage. As for those above the nascent soul stage, almost all of them were in seclusion in their cave abode. It was very difficult to see them all year round. Therefore, the core formation stage and nascent soul stage were the backbone of the sect. This group of cultivators in front of him could definitely frighten those rogue cultivators and small cultivator families. They were all second-generation disciples. All of them were core formation stage cultivators. As for the young girl, she was the senior sister of the second-generation disciples. Her cultivation level was the highest, at the late stage of core formation. The others were all between the early and mid-stage of core formation. With this kind of cultivation, they were not very old. Almost none of them were over 50 years old. From this, it could be seen that there was simply no comparison between the cultivation families and those big sections. Back in the day, the Li clan of Lingnan was considered one of the top cultivation clans. However, they only had one late core formation stage ancestor. Who knows how many years that ancestor had spent in cultivation to reach this level? Compared to the other cultivation clans, the Li clan wasn't even fit to carry their shoes. The difference was so great that it was difficult to estimate. If it weren't for this inverse the universe demon binding net, I wouldn't have dared to target the Demon King. Now, even if the Demon King is strong, it won't be too strong. Even if it's stronger than us, it won't be much stronger. It's also at the critical juncture of the tribulation. Even the heavens are helping us. If we can really capture a Demon King, not only will we be able to make a name for ourselves in the immortal realm, we can also exchange it for a spiritual pill like the nascent cultivating pill, which will greatly increase our chances of forming a nascent soul. This is an opportunity, and I, Wang Fenger, will definitely not miss it. Wang Fenger's face revealed a resolute expression. Clearly, she was quite determined. If one wanted to obtain better resources in the cultivation clans, they would have to contribute to the cultivation clans. This contribution was to capture all kinds of spiritual beasts and even demon clans. This was because the Myriad Beasts sect relied on these spiritual beasts to exchange for all kinds of resources. Therefore, the disciples of the Myriad Beasts sect were destined to go out and search for spiritual beasts from time to time. Alright. Since Senior Apprentice Sister has the inverse the universe demon binding net, then even if it's a Demon King this time, it'll be a piece of cake for you. Following Senior Apprentice Sister will definitely not go wrong. Back then, Senior Apprentice Sister discovered that white tiger in the secular world. Everyone in the sect was envious of it. That was a rare variant. I heard that even Master was planning to raise that white tiger in the direction of the legendary 4-cardinal holy beast, the white tiger. Perhaps in the future, the cultivation clans will have a holy beast guarding them. Moreover, Senior Sister's senses towards spiritual beasts are extremely sharp. Since Senior Sister wants to go in, Junior Sister will follow Senior Sister today. The girls' eyes darted around as they spoke in unison. Obviously, they had made up their minds. The other male disciples also agreed one after another. They seemed to have extraordinary confidence in the universe demon-binding net. Well, we'll wait here now. When the heavenly tribulation is almost done, we'll go in. At that time, we'll pull open the demon-binding net and set up an inescapable net. We'll definitely catch them in one go, Wang Fenger said with an arrogant face. She stood on the mountain peak and stared at the southern wilderness. This 19 demonic tribulations was really too powerful. Even outside the southern wilderness, they could still see it clearly. No one dared to touch the heavenly tribulation easily. They also didn't dare to rush over at this time. Once they entered the range of the heavenly tribulation, they would be treated as helpers by the heavenly tribulation and be attacked together. That would really be a tragedy. Heavenly tribulation and external tribulation. What was a heavenly tribulation? The one above the 100 Flowers Valley was one. What was an external tribulation? Wang Fenger's group of cultivators was an external tribulation. Rumble? The tribulation clouds were as black as ink. They were dark and oppressive. The terrifying pressure that came pouring down made people's hearts tremble. It was as if they couldn't breathe. It kept rolling, and countless lightning bolts burst out, turning the entire tribulation cloud into a thundercloud. The surrounding sky was as bright as day. It didn't look like the darkest scene before dawn at all. It's here. Although Di Shirtian was responsible for guarding, his eyes were always paying attention to the situation of the tribulation cloud. When he saw the tribulation cloud suddenly burst out with a powerful pressure, his heart skipped a beat. He immediately realized that this 19 demonic tribulations was about to begin after all. His eyes were also looking at the scene in the valley without blinking. This was the most rare scene. If he observed it carefully, he could have some experience when he faced the heavenly tribulation in the future and be more prepared. Crack! A terrifying thunderous roar that resounded through the entire southern barbarian region violently rang out. As the sound rang out, the tribulation clouds violently churned and split open in the middle. A bolt of heavenly lightning that emitted crimson flames and contained vast heavenly might smashed down on Chen Shi's head without the slightest bit of mercy. There were countless lightning bolts flashing in the flames. Heavenly fire lightning tribulation? Sister Shi is a grass spirit and is most afraid of heavenly fire. This 19 demonic tribulations is actually heavenly fire lightning tribulation. How unfair is the heavens to us demon clans. When Medusa saw the descending heavenly tribulation, her expression suddenly changed, and she spat out indignantly. Vaguely, she had the intention of scolding the heavens. One had to know that the grass spirit was most afraid of flames. Heavenly fire was a lightning tribulation mixed with the pressure of the heavens and earth, which was even more terrifying. It was simply the nemesis of the grass spirit. For Chen Shi, this was a huge test. Go! Even at this time, Chen Shi still looked unusually calm. Her face was still graceful and elegant. With a wave of her hand, the pink petal that she had been holding between her fingers flew up instantly. Under the heavenly tribulation, she could only defend. After the petal flew out, it didn't fly too high. It just appeared above her head, emitting bursts of pink brilliance. In this brilliance, the petal rapidly grew. In the blink of an eye, it had become the size of several large millstones. It covered her head. The enlarged petals looked incomparably gorgeous, as if they were the most perfect silk. It sheltered Chen Shi under it. Bang! Without any hesitation, the heavenly lightning smashed into the petals that were blocking in front of him. In an instant, the petals burst forth with countless pink lights. Inside them, one could feel that they contained an enormous amount of the essence of 100 flowers. Then, like water ripples that kept spreading out, it started to vibrate in circles. It wanted to continuously disperse the power of the heavenly lightning. She didn't know how the petal was formed, but it did have a magical power. The heavenly fire, which was originally the nemesis of the grass spirit, was gently extinguished by the circles of pink brilliance. It was even scattered to other places and scattered into thousands of streaks. When it landed on the ground, it exploded and created countless terrifying deep pits. The first heavenly tribulation was neutralized so easily. There are 9 heavenly tribulations every time, and this is the first one. There are 8 more. She thought to herself. Whether it was the 19 heavenly tribulation or the 29 heavenly tribulations, there was the word 9 behind it. 9 was the extreme number. Every time the heavenly tribulation descended, there would be 9 heavenly tribulations. If one passed all of them, it would be considered a success. However, one shouldn't think that one could ignore the heavenly tribulation just because they passed the first one. In fact, each heavenly tribulation was stronger than the previous one. To the demonic beasts, that was a terrifying attack that they could not withstand. However, to the dawn beasts, it was something that they could withstand. Gotcha! Another crisp sound rang out. As the tribulation clouds churned, a bolt of heavenly fire divine lightning that was more than twice as thick as the one before struck down violently with boundless pressure. Wherever this bolt of heavenly fire divine lightning passed, even space would distort and tremble unceasingly. Countless grass spirit in the surroundings were crushed and fell to the ground. Chun Shi's expression was calm. Her jade-like hands quickly formed a seal. When the seal was formed, a mystical flower formed in front of her and quickly imprinted on the petal above her head. When the seal entered, the petal burst out with a strong brilliance. In this brilliance, one could faintly see countless flowers blooming. Bang! The heavenly thunder struck again and blasted on the petal. Countless lightning bolts and flames crazily swept over the entire petal, wanting to blast this petal that dared to block the heavenly thunder into pieces. However, this petal was really a magical item. The heavenly thunder still couldn't break through the petal's defense. It only crushed the brilliance on the petal. It didn't damage its foundation. The first few heavenly thunders weren't really the strongest. The key was the last few heavenly tribulations, which had the power to destroy heaven and earth. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 245. Each heavenly tribulation was stronger than the previous one. In the end, the power of the heavenly tribulation would continue to increase. Once one could not withstand it, the result would be death in body and soul. In order to pass the 19th demonic tribulation, the Kingdom of Dawn had prepared for many years. The flower petal suspended above her head to block the heavenly thunder was specially prepared to deal with today's situation. It was made from the first petals of countless flowers in the valley that bloomed at the time of their birth. It was refined into this flower petal by gathering and refining it into this flower petal. All these years, new petals were fused with it every day. Day after day, year after year, until now it was unknown how many types and petals had been fused into this petal. The petals of hundreds of flowers were refined with a secret method. This petal was the first petal of a flower when it first bloomed. It contained the largest and purest chi of 100 flowers. Flowers were the most delicate. This petal contained the softest power in the world. It was like soft water. No matter how strong the power, when it landed on it, it would be dissolved into nothingness. Heavenly tribulation was the strongest power in the world. It was the strongest thunderbolt. The thunderbolt was mixed with the power of heaven and earth. Even the hardest rock in front of it would be smashed into powder in an instant. Softness versus toughness, whichever was stronger would be able to last until the end. This petal was a treasure that Chen Shi had been preparing for countless years to prepare for the heavenly tribulation. The power it contained could easily withstand the first few heavenly tribulations. The heavenly fire and heavenly thunder bombarded the petal. The petal trembled continuously, dispersing the power of the heavenly thunder in all directions. Rumbo! Tian and the others stared at the situation in the valley. Although the heavenly tribulation did not distinguish between the person who was undergoing the heavenly tribulation and would attack once they entered the range of the heavenly tribulation, whether it was Tian or Medusa, once they realized that their lives were in danger, they were prepared to do their best to save Qin Shi. In the blink of an eye, 6 consecutive heavenly thunders fell one after another, but they were all blocked by the petal. However, the price he had to pay for this was terrifying cracks that mysteriously appeared on the petal. That petal won't be able to hold on much longer. Tian's gaze landed on the petal. Seeing the countless cracks that had appeared on it, a glint of light flashed through his eyes. He knew very well that with the power of the heavenly tribulations continuously increasing, he would immediately be blown to smithereens when the 7th bolt of heavenly tribulation descended. If he did not have any other methods, the following heavenly tribulations would be even more difficult to endure. Crack! The tribulation clouds in the sky were rolling more and more intensely. Countless lightning bolts were flickering crazily within the clouds. The lightning bolts intertwined with each other and emitted a mighty power of the heavens and the earth. The terrifying pressure made the entire valley feel as if it was in a completely different world. It was truly terrifying. A terrifying roar resounded from within the tribulation clouds. Immediately, streaks of crimson heavenly tribulation, as thick as water buckets, turned into balls of fiery lightning and fell from the sky. There were hundreds of balls of lightning, and each ball of lightning contained a terrifying power that was several times more powerful than the 6. If such a ball of lightning were to fall anywhere else, 1,000 zhang tall mountain would instantly be turned into ashes. Flower spirits, 100 flower essence, lend me a hand. 100 flower formation, rise. Qin Shi's expression was solemn. His hands quickly formed a series of hand seals, and he shouted softly. The seals were instantly launched into the valley. Circles of strange, colorful light continuously burst out from the 100 flower formation in the valley. Those were the essence of the 100 flower formation. These essence of the 100 flower formation were all released and intertwined with each other, turning into a colorful scene. It was incomparably magical. These essence of the 100 flower formation rose and condensed in mid-air of the valley. In the blink of an eye, it turned into strange flowers that bloomed one after another. Peonies, roses, azaleas, and so on. All kinds of flowers condensed in an instant. These flowers were all condensed from the essence of the 100 flower formation. Every single one of them was breathtakingly gorgeous. In the blink of an eye, a sea of 100 flower formation formed above Qin Shi's head. The world of flowers. Countless flowers were blooming and withering, constantly reincarnating. This was a great formation, the 100 flower formation. The formation was operating quickly. This was Qin Shi's second method to deal with the heavenly tribulation. The great formation had been set up for an unknown period of time. It relied on the endless essence of the countless flowers in the valley to support the operation of the great formation. This formation was a strange formation among defensive formations. By watching the flowers bloom and wither, one would be able to see the entire process of the flowers from their birth to their withering with a single glance. Not only was it strange, it was even more miraculous. The reason it was called a strange formation among defensive formations was because the defensive power of the formation was the flowers that filled the sky. As long as the flowers didn't all perish in an instant, even if only a single flower remained, the formation wouldn't be destroyed. In the blink of an eye, it would be restored to its original state, and thousands upon thousands of flowers would appear again. It covered the entire valley. It was a marvelous formation. This formation was part of the legacy Qin Shi had acquired from Goddess Many Flowers. Ruombo. It took a long time to describe, but in reality, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. Countless heavenly lightning balls bombarded down in an instant, emitting a terrifying pressure that caused people to feel a chill in their hearts. With a bang, the heavenly lightning balls smashed onto the flower petal. Immediately, the flower petal that was originally on the verge of shattering also completed its mission at this moment, turning into ashes under the heavenly lightning balls. Ryuumbo? Hundreds of balls of lightning smashed into the 100-flower array. The power contained in the balls of lightning immediately erupted. Lightning and fire intertwined and swept out in all directions. Within the array, countless blooming flowers were forcibly reduced to ashes by the lightning and fire. They were transformed into quintessence energy. The entire sea of flowers was roiling violently. Dazzling flowers intertwined with lightning and fire. Truly, it was difficult to meet and difficult to part. The east wind is powerless and 100 flowers are gone. In the blink of an eye, countless flowers were destroyed by the lightning and fire. Regardless of whether it was lightning or fire, they were both natural enemies of plants and vegetation. However, the 100-flower formation lived up to its reputation as a strange formation. As soon as the flowers were destroyed, the quintessence energy in the valley poured into the formation, causing new flowers to rapidly take shape. On one side was destruction, and on the other was rebirth. The scene of destruction and rebirth was like the cycle of life and death. The power of the heavenly tribulation was indeed strong, but no matter how strong the power contained within it was, it would be constantly consumed. Furthermore, every time it fell, it would be one bolt, and there would be no new replenishment. However, the formation drew on the essence of the 100 flowers that had been in the valley for countless years, and it was almost endless. After the sea of flowers in the formation was destroyed over 100 times, the originally violent lightning fire was like a small boat in the sea, slowly being destroyed in the formation. They were completely exhausted. What a miraculous formation! With this formation, we should be able to hold on for a while. When Tion saw the 100-flower formation, he could not help but be amazed. These formations that could communicate with the power of heaven and earth were indeed miraculous. In his mind, he could not help but recall the 8 incomplete maps that he had obtained in the Withered Bone Wilderness. 7 of them had been combined, and there was still one that had not been combined. That formation map was not complete. When I go back, I'll have to explore the mystery of the formation map. Who knows, it might allow me to have another trick. A thought flashed through his mind, but he kept it in mind. The 100-flower formation? With the help of the quintessence energy that has been accumulated in the valley for countless years, it does have the ability to resist the heavenly tribulation. However, it can only resist the first 8 lightning bolts. The last one is the inner demon tribulation, and no formation can resist it. At that time, it will be the time when her original body and the elf body are completely merged. When her original body appears, watch my means. Since the beginning of the heavenly tribulation, perfected Lord Ku Rong, who was hiding in the ancient tree, had been carefully observing the situation of the tribulation. He saw that the 100-flower formation had blocked the heavenly tribulation outside, and Chen Shi, who was in the valley, had only attacked twice. The demon tribulation did not hurt her at all. With such strength, it was clear that she was indeed a powerhouse in the demon clan. However, he knew that the first 8 lightning bolts of the demon tribulation were easy to overcome, but the last one was different. It was called the inner demon tribulation, also known as the karmic tribulation. The reason why this tribulation evolved was that it was triggered by the karmic tribulation of the living beings. When the karmic tribulation was deep, it meant that all kinds of killings or immoral acts would be added to the karmic tribulation. At that time, whether the inner demon triggered was strong or weak depended on the amount of karmic tribulation. If it was strong, the inner demon would be stronger, and if it was weak, it would be much easier to overcome. Junior brothers and sisters, the heavenly tribulation is almost done. It's time for us to set off. Whether we can return to the sect and get the important task depends on this. Let's go. Wang Fenger opened her phoenix eyes and looked at the situation of the heavenly tribulation proudly. When she saw that there were still 7 lightning bolts and 2 more to go, she immediately said, "Okay, we'll follow eldest senior sister's decision." The cultivators behind her looked at each other and said in unison, "Clang!" A crimson flying sword shot out from Wang Fenger's body. As soon as it flew into the air, it immediately became huge. With a leap, she jumped on the flying sword. With a whoosh, the group of 9 people all followed her and quickly broke through the air toward the southern wilderness. 9 core formation cultivators, all of whom possessed all sorts of secret techniques to deal with the demon clan. Their terror to the demon clan was unparalleled. The speed of the core formation cultivators was not slow at all. As soon as they entered the southern wilderness, their flying swords broke through the air and quickly rushed toward the 100-Flower Valley. What was worth mentioning was that each of them had taken out a strange pill that was about the size of an egg at some point in time. The color of the pill was snow-white, and it looked quite pleasing to the eye. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 246. Wah. In the 100 Flowers Valley, the 8th heavenly tribulation smashed down heavily. This time, there were thousands of heavenly thunderballs. Each of them contained a terrifying power that could instantly turn a nascent soul cultivator into dust. The heavenly tribulation fell and entangled with the 100 Flowers formation with a bang. The bursts of lightning and fire burst out, instantly turning the entire southern wilderness as bright as day. It was a scene of doomsday. However, at this moment, the underworld ravens that had been guarding in all directions let out that strange hoarse and unpleasant cry at this moment. Their voices were unusually urgent. They seemed very anxious. "King! Look, there are immortal cultivators coming from outside the southern wilderness. It looks like they're coming for the 100 Flowers Valley." Eagle Kong had been hovering high in the sky, constantly paying attention to the surrounding situation. With the sharpness of its eagle eyes, it almost instantly saw Wang Fenger and the other cultivators in the air approaching here. "Everyone, there are foreign cultivators coming for the 100 Flowers Valley." At the same time, the underworld Raven King also spat out a sentence coldly. His 2 eyes shot out a terrifying cold gaze without a trace of vitality. There were wisps of gray death aura constantly rising from his body. "Wah!" He let out a long cry, and immediately, the scattered underworld crows quickly gathered behind him. Almost in the blink of an eye, they formed a black mass of underworld crows, hovering in the sky like a huge dark cloud. However, there was an unending aura of death bursting out from their bodies, intertwining and shooting out. Even Sakura and the others could feel a kind of unconsciously chilling intent on their bodies. The human immortal cultivators are as despicable as before. Last time, they wanted to take advantage of Sister Medusa's tribulation to rob her and sneak attack her from behind. Now, they want to take advantage of Sister Shi's tribulation. Tian is right. It's because we demon clans have been too tolerant that this group of immortal cultivators are so unscrupulous. Could it be that they really want to take advantage of the decline of our demon clans? A ball of anger appeared in the eyes of the red-crowned Crane King. He said resentfully, "It doesn't matter how many of them come. Today, Old Black, will smash them all into meat paste." The Black Ape King breathed out fire from its nostrils as it heavily pounded its fists on its chest, producing a series of muffled booms. Its entire body rose up into the air at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it grew to the size of a small mountain, reaching a height of 20 to 30 zhang. He was like a giant, and the air he breathed out turned into gusts of wind in front of him. His roar was like thunder. Protect the valley. Do not let any cultivators enter the valley. Medusa coldly glanced at the 9 cultivators and said, Don't leave a single one alive. Wang Fenger and company rode on their flying swords at lightning speed. It didn't take long for them to see Centauria Valley. They also saw all the monster kings in front of it. No matter how arrogant she was, she couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. Who is going through the tribulation inside? There are actually so many monster kings guarding here. Underworld ravens, so many underworld ravens, and 2 monster kings in human form. It seems like this is going to be dangerous. Eldest senior sister, look. That's a flock of underworld ravens in front. Legend has it that every underworld raven is the incarnation of the Grim Reaper. There are also monster kings in human form. If we rush in, I'm afraid we won't be able to get away with it. She wasn't the only one who saw it. The other cultivators also saw the scene in front of them and immediately began to retreat. Whether it was the underworld ravens or the monster kings in human form, they were not to be trifled with. Don't panic. Don't forget that we still have the bewitching powder in our hands. Under the influence of the bewitching powder, even monster kings will be affected. When the time comes, I'll use the inverse the universe demon binding net to seal the surroundings. First, we'll temporarily seal the flock of underworld ravens, then deal with the other monster kings one by one. There's no need to hesitate. Let's do it now. In the time it took to say a few words, Wang Fenger took the lead. With a twist of her wrist, she threw the strange pill in her hand at Di Shirtian and the other monster kings. The moment the pill was thrown, it emitted a strange light. Before it landed on the ground, there was a loud bang in the air. It suddenly exploded. After the pill exploded, a thick white smoke burst out in all directions at an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, a large area was covered in white smoke. When Wang Fenger threw out the pills, the other cultivators also knew that there was no way out at this point. Without hesitation, they threw out the pills in their hands one after another. A huge cloud of white smoke burst out, completely covering the entire valley. Moreover, this white smoke seemed to have a life of its own. Once it spread out and came into contact with living creatures, it would rush into their bodies through the pores all over their bodies and quickly rush into their bodies. Not good. Everyone, don't breathe in it. There's definitely something strange about this white smoke. Almost as soon as the white smoke appeared, Di Shirtian immediately realized that it must be something poisonous. This thing was almost the same as those poisonous gas bombs in his previous life. Therefore, when he saw it, he immediately held his breath. However, he didn't notice that the white smoke didn't just enter through the mouth and nose. It also entered the body through the pores. By the time he noticed it, a lot of white smoke had already entered his body. Despicable immortal cultivator. This white smoke is poisonous. I don't know why my strength has been suppressed so much. Simply despicable and shameless. The Black Ape King let out an earth-shattering roar and roared, Despicable person, I, Old Black, will slap you to death. The white smoke appeared quickly and dissipated quickly. In almost the blink of an eye, it dissipated into the air. However, at this moment, Di Shirtian and the others were more or less infected by the white smoke. They could clearly feel that a part of the demonic chi in their bodies had been sealed in an instant. Their cultivation had been suppressed by a lot. Di Shirtian didn't inhale much, but he also felt that 20% of his cultivation had been sealed. That white smoke was truly vicious and terrifying. However, they didn't know that the pill was called bewitching powder. It was a type of pill that the Thousand Beasts sect had researched for countless years. It wasn't meant to be eaten, but used directly. Once true essence was poured into it, it would explode. After the explosion, it would produce this bewitching powder. Once inhaled, one's cultivation would more or less be suppressed. This was a killing move that the Thousand Beasts sect had specially developed to deal with the demonic chi. Who knew how many demonic chi had fallen under this despicable method? The reason why Wang Fenger was so confident in finding trouble with the demonic chi was because of this bewitching powder. Inescapable net, bind the underworld raven. Wang Fenger was really experienced. Almost at the same time that she threw out the bewitching powder, she also threw out the inverse universe demon binding net in an instant. This net was made of an unknown material. As soon as it was thrown out, it immediately expanded rapidly in bursts of treasure light. In the blink of an eye, it had already covered the sky and the sun. In a flash, it bound the underworld raven king and the huge group of underworld ravens in a world. It looked like an inescapable net. It covered the underworld ravens. Bang! The Black Ape King was furious. Although his demonic chi was suppressed a lot, his eyes were spitting fire with anger. When he saw a female cultivator in front of him, his eyes were wide open in anger. He didn't have the slightest intention of showing mercy to the fairer sex. He stretched out his ape palm, as if he was pinching the sun and the moon, and fiercely slapped down on the female cultivator. With this slap, the space under his claws seemed to be completely frozen. It was turbulent, and the momentum was like Mount Tai pressing down. Kill! The Golden Fur Lion King let out an angry lion's roar. Its body expanded with a bang, and in an instant, it became more than 100 feet tall. Its 3 heads also became incomparably huge. It opened its mouth in the middle and sucked fiercely at a cultivator in the air. Immediately, a huge gust of wind swept up in front of it. The terrifying suction force bound that cultivator, bringing him into its mouth, and was about to swallow him. It was actually going to swallow that cultivator into its stomach in one go. It was incomparably fierce. Howl! The red-crowned crane king didn't hesitate at all. It flapped its wings and flew high into the sky. Its snow-white feathers were like sharp arrows, carrying a sharp cold light as they pounced towards the few cultivators. It seemed that they had suffered a loss from Bai Yin at the beginning. However, this was just a little suppression of their cultivation. How could it scare these monster kings who had lived for God knows how many years? Not only were they not afraid, but they also displayed an incomparably fierce battle strength. They pounced towards this group of cultivators. The battle, almost as soon as it began, entered a white-hot state. There was not a trace of delay at all. Bang! Di Shirtian's right hand appeared on the hilt of Tiger Soul like lightning. With a flick of his wrist, Tiger Soul was suddenly unsheathed with a crisp sound. 2 threatening cold lights suddenly shot out from his eyes and landed on the leader, Wang Fenger. "It's you!" A sentence containing an unknown amount of hatred came out of Di Shirtian's mouth stiffly. Looking at Wang Fenger, his eyes were so cold that it seemed to be able to freeze the entire air. A wave of cold air quickly burst out in all directions like a tidal wave. Within the cold air, there was a terrifying murderous intent. The cold murderous intent almost instantly locked onto Wang Fenger completely. A ruthless aura brewed in his body. Chi Hua and the others seemed to know that Di Shirtian had chosen Wang Fenger as his opponent. Without prior agreement, they all looked for other cultivators to fight. In the midst of that ruthless aura, it was as if Di Shirtian and Wang Fenger were the only 2 left in the world. Clang! Wang Fenger formed a sword seal, and the flying sword flew back into her hand. She looked at Di Shirtian with a puzzled expression and raised her head arrogantly. "You're from the demon clan. I, Wang Fenger, don't know you." "Humph. Where are my mother and little brother?" Di Shirtian's ruthless aura crazily surged out from his heart. He pointed Tiger Soul at the sky. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 247. At this moment, Di Shirtian's eyes were so cold that it almost froze the air in front of him. Oppressive hatred spewed out from his eyes without any concealment. A wave of anger continuously gathered in his chest, and in the blink of an eye, it reached an uncontrollable state. He pointed Tiger's soul at Wang Fenger, and a ruthless murderous aura burst forth from the saber. Saber hums continuously burst forth from the saber. It's her, it must be her. He couldn't help but recall the scene in Tiger Hill before he stepped onto the path of demon cultivation. It was a scene that he would never forget no matter what. He could only lie powerlessly in a patch of dense weeds and watch as the white tiger's mother and his two younger siblings were caught in a large net. They let out mournful roars in the net. The unforgettable pain brought about by the separation of flesh and blood was something that he could never forget in his life. His ears would constantly ring with the mournful howls from that time. It was also at that time that two figures were deeply imprinted in his mind, a man and a woman. At that time, he did not know who they were or where they came from. He could only remember their appearances so that he could seek revenge in the future. Later on, he learned from Little White and the young girl Zi Fei that they were brought to a place called the Thousand Beasts sect. Those two must be disciples of the Thousand Beasts sect. Even if he turned into ashes, he would not forget that this female cultivator called Wang Fenger in front of him was the culprit who had captured the white tiger mother and her family of 3 in Tiger Hill. How deep was the impression from back then? He could clearly recognize Wang Fenger with a single glance. The demonic aura in his body almost exploded on the spot, wildly circulating in the meridians in his body. Waves of extremely dense demonic aura surged into the sky like smoke signals. As it continued to tumble, it vaguely formed a pitch-black tiger, which roared at the sky. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes blaze with hatred. However, Wang Fenger did not recognize Di Shirtian. Back at Tiger Hill, she was already overjoyed when she caught the white tigers. She thought that she had caught all of them and captured the entire tiger den in one fell swoop. How could she be wary of other tigers nearby? It had to be known that tigers usually gave birth to 2 children at once. It was extremely rare for a tiger to give birth to 3 children at once. There must be a strange beast among them. Your mother and younger brother? What are you talking about? Wang Fenger could feel the hatred and murderous intent rising from Di Shirtian's body. Even though she was in the late stage of the core formation realm, she still felt a sense of trepidation. But after all, her cultivation was only one step away from the nascent soul realm. Her cultivation was so high that she was even stronger than Li Kanglin, who attacked Medusa. How could she dare to go to Liangshan without being cautious? Wang Fenger dared to rush into the southern wilderness. Her cultivation was so strong that it could be imagined that she must have extraordinary reliance in her hands. Even in the face of so many monster kings such as Di Shirtian, she still did not have the slightest intention of retreating. She was unusually decisive in her killing. In an instant, she used the bewildering demon smoke to suppress a part of the monster cultivators present. The vital essence in her body circulated. For some reason, the clothes on her body turned fiery red in an instant, turning into a robe that constantly glowed with red light. Not only did the robe not lose its beauty, but there was also a faint fire phoenix circling around the robe, making it seem even more noble. This robe was also a rare treasure called the Phoenix Robe. When worn, it had the magical effect of avoiding fire. Even in strong flames, one could walk freely as if they were on flat ground. It was really amazing and extraordinary. Not only that, but it also had a magical effect of protecting the body. As soon as the red light rose, it immediately blocked the cold killing intent outside the body. She held the crimson flying sword in her hand. This sword was very strange. It looked like the shape of a phoenix. It was strange. Hearing Di Shirtian's words, she couldn't help but cast a strong doubt between her eyebrows. This was the first time she came to the southern wilderness. It was impossible for her to have any enmity with the southern wilderness monster clan before. It really made her extremely puzzled. Did you forget that nearly 3 years ago, you once went to the Tiger Hill mountain range and captured one big and two small? 3 tigers in the mountain range, 2 of which were white tigers. Did you really forget? Tian spat out his words word by word. Anyone could hear that every single word seemed to be spat out from the gaps of his teeth. Within every single word, there was an unforgettable hatred that was engraved in his bones. From the moment he saw Wang Fenger, the hatred buried deep in his heart was completely triggered. There was no way to suppress it anymore. Are you the male tiger of that group of tigers? I was wondering why I didn't see the male tiger at that time. Turned out that it really ran away. A flash of inspiration flashed through Wang Fenger's mind like a flash of lightning. She immediately remembered what happened in the Tiger Hill. That time, she was able to capture the white tiger. When she returned to the sect, she was praised by the elders of the sect and was given many treasures. The Phoenix Empress robe on her body was one of the rewards she received at that time. Because the Thousands Beasts sect was using a secret method to see if they could cultivate the legendary 4 sacred beasts with infinite power: Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise. The white tiger captured at that time was not the legendary white tiger, but the naturally born white tiger more or less had the bloodline of the sacred beast of white tiger. If it was stimulated in a unique way, it was possible to transform into the legendary sacred beast. After a long time of cultivation, the Thousands Beasts sect might have the legendary 4 sacred beasts to protect the sect. In that case, it would be difficult for the sect to be destroyed. When Wang Fenger brought the white tiger back, it was naturally of great help to this plan. All kinds of rewards were incomparably generous. To be able to have the cultivation of the late core formation realm at such a young age, the rewards from back then were also very important. I am the head of the white tiger, Tian said coldly. What? You are only the son of that white tiger? In just 3 years, how can you have such cultivation? Impossible. At this time, Wang Fenger could not help but let out a cry of surprise. She had a very deep understanding of the demon clan. Naturally, she knew that the cultivation of the demon clan was much slower than that of the natural Taoism aptitude of humans. Without hundreds or thousands of years, ordinary spiritual beasts could not become demon beasts or even condense an inner core. But Sakura, who was in front of him, had made consecutive breakthroughs in just 3 years' time and reached such an unbelievable cultivation. The speed of his cultivation was simply unprecedented. Where are my mother and brother now? If anything happens to them, I swear to destroy the Thousands Beast sect. Tian's voice was bone-chilling. In this short period of time, the aura on his body had accumulated to a peak state. The tiger soul in his hand emitted a fierce, murderous aura. Ha ha! You want to find your mother? To tell you the truth, your mother and brother were killed long ago. If you want to find them, go to the underworld. Phoenix feather incinerates the heavens. Wang Fenger chuckled coldly. Her gaze towards Tian was filled with an awe-inspiring murderous intent. Her hands quickly formed a spiritual art. Once the spiritual art was formed, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in front of her suddenly tumbled rapidly. Waves of fire spiritual chi rapidly condensed in the air in a mysterious trajectory. Howl! In midair, the cry of a phoenix that was filled with the aura of a king appeared out of nowhere. As the phoenix cry sounded, a strange scene appeared in the sky. In midair, a large amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth condensed together and formed feathers that emitted a fiery glow. These feathers were not the feathers of an ordinary bird, but the plume of a fire phoenix. Every plume contained the terrifying fire of the phoenix. Although there was only a small trace of the heavenly fire of the phoenix in the plume, it was still able to burn everything. If an ordinary cultivator was touched by the flames on the plume, he would be burned on the spot. Without any means, his entire body would be completely turned into ashes. This was a spell, and its grade was extremely high. It could be said to be a high-grade spell. This spell was not like the Imperial Wind spell or the Fireball spell. It was a spell that possessed great power. As one's cultivation level increased, one's understanding of the spell would increase. If a cultivator above the nascent soul stage used this spell, it was rumored that it could instantly boil the water in a lake until it dried up. With Wang Fenger's late-stage core formation stage cultivation, the power displayed by this spell was enough to threaten a nascent soul stage cultivator. Once these phoenix feathers were formed, there were hundreds and thousands of them. They all emitted a vermilion heavenly fire of the phoenix. Like sharp arrows, they fell fiercely towards Di Shirtian, covering the sky and covering the earth. The attack directly covered a radius of 100 meters. Her first move was such a ferocious killing move. It was obvious that Wang Fenger was determined to kill Di Shirtian. In her heart, she thought, this demon cannot be allowed to live. To be able to obtain such great power in a short 3 years, if he is given more time, I fear that in 10 years, or even 100 years, there will be no one in this world that can stop him. When that time comes, I fear that it will be my time to die. He will definitely die. Kill. Sakra's expression was ice-cold. His eyes focused and his left foot took a step forward. With this step, the aura from his entire body was like a tidal wave, fiercely spewing out. The ground under his feet trembled violently. Countless cracks, like a spider web, crazily burst out in all directions with his feet as the center. The blade moved with him. Following the momentum of this stomp, the tiger soul in his hand took advantage of the momentum. With a flick of his wrist, the tiger soul turned and swept out like lightning towards the blade above his head. Countless tyrannical golden rays of light appeared from the blade, and a 30 to 40 feet long terrifying blade light immediately burst out from the tiger soul. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.